right, I think I'm live. I'm hearing an echo. Hold on. All right. I think that covers that. No echo. Oh, man. Ooh. Boy, technical problems. I didn't know if I was better to get this one going. So, all right, I'm live here, and I appreciate everybody that chose to be here and hang out. The last one that I did went really, really well. And I was shocked at how many people were there, and I can't see how many people are here this time. It looks like 14, 15 people. That's cool. My goal's always been to get, if I can get 10 people in here, I'm doing pretty good. So anyway, thank you all for coming. It's good to see you all, and I'll try to monitor the chat here, the chat here just a little bit as I talk also. And this was something, honestly, these lives for me are spontaneous. When spirit really motivates me to do it, I'll just do one. Maybe I'll try to start doing them more frequently because I don't really do videos anymore. So this is something just a little different. I got a different response than what I ever thought I would from these. So I appreciate all of you. What I want to go over tonight, rather, it's kind of late, so I appreciate all y'all that are here. But what I wanted to go over was organic UFOs and biological sentient UFOs. And when I say that, I'm going to have to speak from my personal experience. That's why I'm into this thing, and that's the only reason I know anything about it. And even the science I learned about it was behind what I experienced. So I can't speak for the other people that may have experienced, organic UFOs or things, or it seems like the materialist of this community, these communities, they're materialists. And they want to really focus on the nut and bolts of this whole thing. God, why is it dark in here? Anyway, they would really want to focus on the nuts and bolts of this thing and want things to be more metal and material as opposed to dealing with the consciousness, dealing with the organic components of these craft. And that's something I was forced with, without a doubt, upon especially what I call my adult onset experiences. The crafts that I was on then were definitely much more organic in nature. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit and some of the things that are different. So seeing a couple people in here. Hey, good to see you all too. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here, seriously. And I'll try to talk a little bit and not do what I normally do, which is get so carried away that I get off point and stuff like that. But I'm going to try to stick to this a little bit, then I'll try to go into the chat and see what everybody's saying and answer any questions if there's, any anyway. So something to start kind of wanted to touch on first, okay? Everybody that came here saw the picture that I put up for the advertisement, the profile pic. And what that is the organic UFO, or it's not, I'm sorry, it's actually the East Korean UFO from 1951, if you want to look that up, all right? And one of the main reasons I wanted to kind of connect that with this subject is that there are pictures like that when you go that far back, before the era of CGI, before the era of AI programs. I mean, that's just ruining everything. As far as what we're trying to get at, that stuff is really ruining everything. It's getting advanced enough now to where it's stepping in the way of real possible documented evidence. But anyway, going back to pictures that are that old, to the 50s and the 60s, and what you can see, what you see on there is, you'll notice that there's two things I want to point out about that picture. One is it has a light on the top of it. Okay, and that light would be called directional emitter. And I'll describe a little bit about that more. That goes into one of my experiences. And I've done videos on a lot of this. I've done a video over directional emitters, all right? And what that actually does is, why I must just say it now. On the one that I had dealt with, which is the morphing organic UFO, which is this one. Okay, you can't see it. Okay, that's this one. I talked about that in videos. I've talked about this a lot. All right, this is one that happened when I was 18. I had the encounter with this thing. All right, and it has on the top of it, as you see, this directional emitter. And when this thing had pulsed in over this pond, it manifested. All right, that thing, that light is turning around. It's turning, and each time it turns my direction, it's making me go woo, woo, woo. It's like being tuned in by a radio station. All right, and now I know what that was. Not just does this directional emitter project a beam, a plasma type of beam that can open up like a micro wormhole or a mako. Okay, it all, and then they ride the gravitational waves on through. But it's not just that. All right, it also it was tuning into my brain waves. And that's very important. For those of you that have been listening to me talk about the makos and talk about what they actually are in terms of hard drives of the universe and how that actually works as scientifically, as explained by Dr. Rudy Shields. But this right here was tuning into my brain waves. So it says something else that these craft are capable of. Again, this is a conscious craft. And this is the one that I saw morph into, to those of you that haven't followed what I've been saying for the last 10 freaking years. This is the ship that it morphed into. And it's called a tri-pyramidal Merkaba. And this book right here, first time I found a name for it, this book by Keys Enoch by J.J. Anyway, so that directional emitter was tying into me, and that takes us back to the UFO, Korean UFO, okay, and how that's got a type of light, that directional emitter of some type on top. One indication of me that that's a real picture, all right? The other thing that's the most important, I want everybody to remember this because I hear so much talk about orgone energy and things and life energy, prana, and prana, life energy, is what actually runs the craft I've been on board. And a type of an orgone, not orgone, but it's more of a life energy, like almost a pure type of polarized life energy. All right. And I've talked about that, what it's called and everything. So anyway, when going further with that, when you have a craft like that, okay, like for example, that is, I've shown you before the inside of a craft. Sorry, I should have had these pictures already, but I didn't think they'd be really visible. Thank you. This one right here. And this is what I call the gyroscopic engine. All right. And it's actually got this thing down here that takes us into C60, which is actually, it looks like a spear, but it's got these hexagons on it. Okay. And it takes us into what's called the honeybee conjecture. Why the honeybees actually make those hexagons for their actually to store their energy. It's a life energy thing, okay? And it made this deep, even a little bit deeper yellow than what Kasara has here, projecting up. And these are decks, okay? And those of you that know Susan Manwich, I said I've seen her before, as well as I'd seen Bill Spicer on this experience when I was 17, when they started ramping up again for me. I woke up on board this craft, but they were up here. These are decks, okay? Point being, this life energy, as they call it, the living light, as they called it, goes up to this box up here, which is what they kept giving me was an inertial dampener. Okay, and what it was doing is collecting this life energy, and then it releases it throughout the craft, but also around the skin of the craft. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because that Korean UFO 1951 picture and the others that are going back to that date, when you have something, a craft that has that type of a life energy, an orgone field around it, it's emitting that, it creates a void on film emulsions from that era. Different technologies, it creates a void on the film emulsions, period. And when you look at that UFO craft there, that Korean one, look at the left side of it. You can see, okay, so for example, this life energy is collected in this box. And I've explained how this is the type of black box. I can't talk about the ones that hold souls and all that. And it's been proven that there's a mathematical computation that shows that a cube could hold souls. Not doubting that, but that's not what this thing is. It's more of a life energy. And when I talk about what it takes to bring materials and energy from another dimension to this one, not just another density, but another dimension. You know, density is weight, as the word dimension is actually width and measurement. But when I think we're dealing with it, it's really combined and not the separate equations that we think. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get too far on this. See, I'm going on a tangent. Anyway, sorry, folks. Anyway, this black box that collects that life energy and then releases it, not just throughout the ship, but around the skin of the craft, that creates a gravity modification field. I don't want to call it anti-gravity. I call it gravity. It's a gravity modification field. Okay, so when you look at that picture that I put up, that UFO Korean, that Korean East Korea UFO, when you look at the bottom of it, you see the black void over it. And more than that, look at the left corner. You can see a black void starting to form around it. They're releasing that magnetic, gravity modification field, that life energy field around the skin of that craft, because it's about to make a frequency jump, which means go to another vibration, probably go through one of these wormholes, one of these makos, and that's kind of what you're seeing there. So when you see older pictures like that, the ones that go back to the 50s and the 60s of the UFOs, look for that black void under them. Look for the black void on the side. It's an indication of you that they're using this life energy, this type of an orgone life energy. All right. So that's something I just wanted to point out about part of this that is a biological part of some of these craft. And I'm trying to give you the characteristics of what, I have dealt with and seen and experienced. That's all I can really do. Somebody said lately, he always talks about the stuff only the stuff he experienced. Well, sorry, I got to have a base to start at. You know what I mean? Because the fantasy that invades these fields and these communities is extensive. Do you hear me? Extensive. So anyway, and the separating and discernment fantasy from experience and fact and science helps to a degree. Is it an all answer? No, it is not. But it gives us a foundation, okay? And that's a good starting point for these things that are so weird. Hell, man, I ain't even got to sit up here and lie to you. All this stuff is so weird, Anyway, sorry, I'm getting carried away. That's concerning that UFO picture that I put up, okay? So I just wanted you to know kind of why I posted that one and the connection with it, and that what lets me know that is a real craft that is doing something, okay? That's just something, and such pictures from that era also represent that, okay? Something else I want to talk about, and we'll take it into this craft, okay? The one again that I just had showed you. And this is actually when that thing is morphing, all right? This craft right here. And when I started asking, telepathically, so much comes in during these experiences. When you're really in the presence of these non-human, some of them are non-human, some of them are non-physical, and you're in one of these environments, you're getting, people use the word download, but I think it's more than that. It's an open communication, and you're getting hit with information from, for example, I want to bring this up again. I wondered why I was allowed to walk around on some of these craft. But it's weird because when you want to go somewhere on there or you're looking at something, you could suddenly be in that room and it makes you really, really sick. The physical thing. And that's why I've talked about the difference between physical experiences and astral dream body experiences. Because the people that are having the astral dream experiences, like on board this craft that had the, see, I'm getting real excited here. This up here, they were all Susan Manwich and Bill Spicer and White Devil. These are people I saw up here that I've met in my real life. They were transparent. I could kind of see through them. And I'm down here by this thing. And it's a dizziness going on there, okay? And I'm far away, not enough to where I'm not getting hit by these rings or moving. When I saw the movie Contact years later with Jodie Foster, and they dropped her through something similar to that, I knew it was somebody that had contact made that. Anyway, sorry. But that's just, I think, an important thing, that they were up there in their dream bodies, okay? Energy bodies. They're kind of transparent. And I could see them up there, energy bodies. They're kind of transparent. And I could see them up there leaning over this deck. And this thing is big, okay? It's huge. It's like looking at a huge building, like looking up. And I wanted to go up there, so I moved around, and all of a sudden, zoom, I'm like on that deck. And I'll tell you, that's when I got really sick. It starts becoming hard to, I can tell you it's a physical experience. I'm about to throw up, okay? And you know what it feels like when you get your stomach taken, like when you're on a roller coaster, when you first go down it, it's worse than the merry-go-round, but you lose your stomach. That's what my mama used to call it. And that's what happened. It's like I'm losing my stomach completely up there. And these people, Bill and Susan and them, are going to the end of this rail one at a time, touching this living light. Okay, but they weren't suffering from the physical temporal aphasia that I was, about ready to lose it, and the experience will be over. So anyway, that's just one thing I want to talk about, the difference in some of the technologies they use and why they do that. Because sometimes being physical there, even where they make this place that was partial enough manifested that I could be here as be there as a third dimensional being, and them there too, it's not suitable for the human body. Okay. Anyway, I'll get a drink here. I'm gonna take one quick break here and look in the chat real quick because I've been going and I feel like I'm just getting started. And I want this to go real long. The skies, the stars. Yes, I was talking about that earlier, and I was going to mention that with Jock Doubleday, who I've been communicating with even more. And in the Uranta book, when they start talking about towards the beginning of it, they talk about these, what we would call super higher life forms that are brilliant evening stars, brilliant morning stars, and they're describing stars as entities and as beings and conscious and creators. And I can tell you from some of my past life regressions I've done on people, that's accurate. I've had some people that will describe being that themselves. So, I mean, it's really, when we start getting that regression work, it's a trip. I don't care how many of them I do. I'd be like blown away every time, flabbergasted. Anyway, sorry. If Bigfoot tracks reads radiation, that's a good question for Jessica. She's mentioned Jessica Jones. She's mentioned radiation sometimes around the active areas, and also that where they saw that cube. See, I've heard her mention that, but I can't say if Sasquatch actually reads radiation, because they don't always even give off a heat signature, do they? But again, I think that's because these are beings that are accessing the dream body. Okay. That's a whole nother topic, but that's a whole other thing going on that, we start dealing with masters of perceptions and those beings that can really mold and forge their energy, their dream body into almost the third dimensional form to trick people. Those are the real masters of perception. And I think we're foolish to think that some types of Sasquatch can't do that. Maybe it's not all of them. Maybe it's not every species. Maybe it's what I've been hearing recently a lot. It's the shamans, the elders of the tribe are the one that could do that. But the truth is, we don't know. You know what I mean? I know there's some people that have some things that's suspect. They say they know, but I mean, we don't have any hard proof. But something paranormal is going on there. Anyway, let me go back to this because somebody out there is listening to me talk about these craft. I know. I think this is important anyway. So, okay, so there's another one. All right, and I'm gonna just bear with me, folks. I'm gonna find this picture too. And for all this, I have videos on my channel for. Okay, there is another. When I was on that ship there that I just showed you, that I call that ship the morphing UFO. All right, there was a room that first it was like this yellow beam. First it was like blue and then went yellow, and it had these like two colors I had seen that kind of had floated me into that craft, levitated me in there. And that's one room inside that craft. Pull that one out. And here it is. Sorry, folks. This one, okay? I call this the here it is there. I call this I didn't know what to term it, like anti-gravity room, gravity modification room. This is the room that I went into on that craft. On that craft I showed you, this one, there's a small door under there, and I got sucked through that door in between those balls underneath, okay, which I think are not what they appear to be either, but that's another talk. Going back to this is the first room, okay? And when she did this, she did a good illustration. That Christine Jenner was so patient with me on all these art because I was very specific and there were a lot of revisions had to be done. The only thing I would say about this that was a little different was that it was much bigger than it appears here, okay? This room was big enough itself that it was as big as what I saw floating out in the sky out there, okay, the ship. And this had this blue beam in there, okay, that had this, it looked like very glowing, almost blue type of energy in it. there were these hoses that went into this. The walls looked like they were almost mycelium. Okay, like living, they felt that way, like more consistent than a toadstool though. And then there was this black box in that room, okay? And this black box was big, and it looked like it had these like carbon tubes coming out of it going into the wall. And when I tell you, and these tubes coming out that went up, they look like carbon tubes too that went into the box. And this thing was sitting at what appeared to be, oh gosh, I'm not the best at math. I think you call it a 90-degree angle. But when I look up at it, okay, I start getting really dizzy. And it's because this thing is temporally displaced in this craft. And that's what was starting to happen with me, all right? And not to mention the fact that it's bigger than it appeared to be. And why I'm showing this to you when dealing with these craft, okay? This, to me, would have been more the underbelly of the craft. And we start talking about these beings that can reproduce themselves, because what this ship and the ones that I've been on board with, they've given me information during the experience they're composed of is, and I've said all this before, it's on my YouTube channel, right? A type of metamaterials that comes from planets that are devoid of Van Allen belts, okay? And some of them devoid of atmospheres. They get hit by a type of solar radiation for some of them stars that are on different nanospectrums than our sun, that makes them completely resilient in a way we're unaware of. That's one component, okay? Another component you've got is a mycelium, a mushroom type of component. You know, I came forward 10 years ago. It's almost been 10 years. It was August of 2014. And, you know, I got a lot of people, some people listened, but I got clowned by some people. Oh, you want mushroom ships? Oh, yeah, right. I got clowned until suddenly years later, NASA came out that if they put habitations on Mars or the moon, they'll be using mycelium type of housing to do it. And they're using mycelium currently to repair infrastructures in cities, especially bridges. Not so funny now, is it? Anyway, so I'm going on anyway. So that's another component. You've got the metamaterials, okay? Then you've got the mycelium component. Then you've got a quasi-crystal component. And when I say that, look into our science now and what the things that they're growing in the lab that are quasi-crystals, that have the odd symmetries to them. Okay, I've seen similar to like that on the craft. I'll go through here and show you the one that was the engine that I've showed you before that has the large quasi-crystals in it. She did a good representation of that, except inside them, the lattices, the way they're structured looked really odd. You know, and that reminds me of is what they call quasi-crystals now. And the fact that they were emitting a bioluminescence or chemical luminescence from inside. I've seen the other things these crafts do. Our crystals here on Earth don't do that. Anyway, so that's the third component, okay, is this quasi-crystal type of component, okay? And then you've also got DNA from the crew, or genetic material from the crew, and their life energy. All that is put into a type of a compound that is grown over a micro wormhole in space, or wormhole in space. And I'm suspecting maybe undersea too, it could be done on the right phantoms down, but it's done over a micro wormhole over in space, a mako, or within one. And then what you have, so that is why the engine of the craft, or the power source, is temporally displaced. You understand? And if you want to see what I'm talking about, I don't know, people hate it when I do, oh, there he goes doing entertainment references, but I'll do another one. Screw that. Man, on Star Trek Enterprise, there was a really good episode towards the end where they got this little craft that they were saying was from like, not just 900, like a couple thousand years in the future, I want to say. And maybe it was 900 years. Anyway, but it had, one thing was when they were around it, they kept having like these, what we could call chronic hysteresis, or a time loop that kept looping when they're around it. And the other beings came in to everybody's trying to go for war for this thing. And they were telling them there's temporal radiation coming off that thing. Oh, it's dangerous for y'all, you know? But when dealing with that type of a technology, you see, I think it's very, very, very relevant, you know, and just what they were trying to show you there, that actually the core of that engine was temporally displaced as well. So there's things, you know, going on this as well. I mean, even the TARDIS too, you know, somebody the brother put in the comments before this started, God, I can't think of his name now, but he said no, it's not talked about enough, like I was saying, but it's referenced in Farscape quite a bit. Now, I didn't watch all the Farscapes, but I'm aware of that ship, and I saw some of them. And it's interesting. It's English, and like Doctor Who is, but I believe the ship was called Moa. But anyway, it was alive and sentient. And for those that don't know, so is the TARDIS. The TARDIS is a living entity, a interior continuum wrapped around a plasmic shell. So that's that takes us again to that being a living organism and a living ship. Okay, and that's where so some people are really onto this. Anyway, so all right, I think I calmed down now. I was at the anti-gravity room there, right? All right, the metamaterials and that the compound and how they're grown. So when you see a UFO like hovering over water, and they've got that kind of thing that they're doing, which is kind of, I think, taking us into quantum, takes us into locality, actually. Okay, and how they actually use locality when they do a frequency shift through one of these Makos, and that's why you actually see two of them at one time. And that's when they go through. Actually when something goes through the Mako itself, it creates on the copy of the Mako is on the surface is a perfect copy. Okay, and so that's why you see when a lot of these ships will go, you see one doing that, then it goes into, all of a sudden you'll see two, then there's one, and then they're gone. That's that quantum hologram right there. It's bilocation, or non-locality. Non-locality. That's what that is right there. Anyway, so I'm not a physicist, but I've learned just enough to where I think I know a little bit. At least I'm not flying blind, right? Anyway, when you see a UFO a ship going over, and I've known two people now that have seen a craft over their swimming pool hovering like that, and when you see that, actually what they're doing is they're sucking up the life energy, okay, the orgone energy into processing of the life energy for the craft itself, right? So that's what you're kind of seeing there. And it's something, just keep in mind of, just like I've explained before, when they release the anti-gravity field, like you see in that UFO, Korean UFO picture that I mentioned before, they're starting to release that gravity field around it. But sometimes when they do that also, when they start doing that process, converting like water into life energy, it creates a byproduct of a mist. And a lot of times they'll use that mist for cloaking. Thus, sometimes we see lenticular clouds, and some of those are natural phenomenon. But if you see one or a small little clouds that have a single, like a rainbow strip going through it, I mean, just out of nowhere, you just look at that one cloud. It's got these rainbow strips in it. Why don't you try looking at it and dissolving it with the radiation from your eyes, and watch the ship take off? It happens quite a bit. I used to enjoy doing that when I was younger. Anyway, so going back, all right, I feel like I'm going way off. I'm not paying attention to the chat, so I'm sorry, folks. I'm almost done rambling. Just a little bit more Barry rambling, and I'll be done. So, okay, actually, I've got a lot of it. On board some of these craft too is what what we're dealing with is space organisms, okay? And as space organisms, all right, we don't know how they are. I don't know how they are. Some of these craft I'm moving around on, maybe another reason I'm not being escorted or having this high security or whatever is because this sentient craft is reading me. And I think it's not just reading me. I think it's reading my soul life memories, something that we don't have full access to unless you're into hypnosis here in this lifetime. Okay. And I think that it's the same way that certain species on Earth have access to the race memory. All right. I think Sasquatch has access to that too. And I've talked about that in a few shows recently. But I think that's got something to do with some of these craft. And I want to bring up another craft. It's not the same experience, all right? But it's the craft where it was more of a pure conscious craft, and then it materialized around us. like manifested around us. And then I think that's when they start taking on more of an organic component. All right. And on board this craft, and I can't tell you for sure what this one looked like on the outside. I was driving when it was flashing out there, but I couldn't see it because there's deer jumping out, and it's a weird situation out in the country. But when I pull up and stop the car, you won't see the ship anymore. And these fireflies are just going crazy out there. And that kind of predated that was a preamble to the ship materializing around us. All right. And that's when I say that the way these fireflies were pulsing, I mean, each tree, it almost looked like it was the Amazon or something. It was unreal. And the amount they were flying in the air. And also based on what John Vivinco and I talked about on that video, on this channel, on interviews. I did a video with John Vivinco, and we talked about the target he assigned his team on those strange fireflies in the Brazilian forest, and that they were actually here to see why their ancestors, they're from another dimension, where their descendants were destroyed here during one of the forest fires. So the light beings, the fireflies, are aware of the light ships. Period. I don't care what nobody says. There's some type of awareness going on more than them just flashing because it's a mating ritual. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Sorry, folks. I'm bringing this up, yo, because this craft in this room, and I assume this was the bridge, okay? The most stable thing in this room was this black beam. It was rather large, a little larger than this. And something about this that really looked different than I was able to really describe is that it had these distortions open up and closing all around it, inside of it. When I say that, there's like maybe, 7 a dozen of them, I don't know, a bunch of them. They're opening and closing. And that's the one where you have this thing right here that was a light being of some type that like jumps on the floor kind of in front of me, just a few feet in front of me. And at first it looks like kind of like a pink spherical thing. And then it starts unfolding like a sunflower. And it jumps into one of these micro wormholes and it comes out another one really quick. And I'm getting communicated with really quick, heavy. We're like fish out of water in your dimension, in your density. I got both those words. So that's why I think they're connected. We're like fish out of water. And I know now what that means. When I was younger and I would do things that Carlos Castaneda called the gate of power. I have had a lot of discussions about him lately. And one thing in his books, I tried all those techniques, most of them in all his books. There were ones that I could put, blessings and love and protection on. One of them was the gate of power. And I started talking to my Native American friends where I live. And they started telling me about how that's a technique that was connected to the great walkers, that people don't know how they walked across the Bering Strait and other things. But what that actually does, all right, is that technique shuts off your internal dialogue. It stops you from talking to yourself. When you're doing it, it kind of creates your projections. You do this at night. It's a special run. You do it. It looks really, really odd. I won't go into that. But it projects a light. Your solar plexus starts projecting a light that stops you from tripping. And, like for me, I started looking at it, I go, whoa, that's pretty cool. And all of a sudden I stop and look up and I'm like way across this field. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when I start seeing these blue flashes, boom, boom. And they look like they're fireflies going out real quick. But I was like, man, but they can't be because it's the middle of January or even later. It's very much the winter. And there were no fireflies around. It's so cold. I got on my thermals. I'm wrapped up. Okay, but they look like to me, I wonder if they were fairies or what they were, because they would go out real quick before I could trace them with my eyes outside of the peripheral, which, we see in black and white. And it never occurred to me that is non-corporeal beings from on board one of these craft. That I don't know if they're doing a shore leave or if they're coming out playing with angelics or playing with earth spirits or what they're doing, But one more thing I want to bring up, all right? And I'll get to the chat for a little bit because I know I'm not. All right, on board, there was several rooms on board that morphing UFO. There were several different rooms on board that thing, but one of them is this room that had these eggs in it, okay? Gosh, if I could just find it. Sorry, folks, I should have had this more sorted out, but this is so spontaneous. Here's the picture of the crystal ship that had the large quasi crystals. Like, so, I used to think it was an engine, but now I actually think it's much more of a brain. That's when it's deactivated. Anyway, and I've got a lot of pictures about actually the inside of that craft, but I will get too carried away and I'll find the next few. Just forget it. Okay. All right, I can't find it. Point being, on board this craft, sorry folks, on board this craft, there are these eggs in every room, okay? Oh gosh, there it is, right in front of me. Sorry. So my mother would always say if it was a snake, it would have bit me. Sorry. Anyway, this craft right here, okay, this is the inside of that craft, that morphing UFO that I told you about. This is inside of it. You've got these beings here that look like this being named Mana was one that communicated with me. I've gotten more responses probably on Mana than I have any other being I've shown, but these ones are much shorter than the Mana itself and that being. But in every room were these eggs, and these eggs look like they were almost a type of glass on front, like a glass type of material, and it was metal on the backs of them, and then like these hoses, these tubes that go into this mycelium type of a wall. And these lights, and there were different size eggs on every size of this every room I went on this craft, all right? And inside is this mist, and there's mist all over this craft that made it hard for me to breathe. But there's mist is even deeper inside this these eggs, and there are these lights in there, okay? These lights that look like different types of plasma and maybe a condensed light, things like that floating around in there. And so I thought these were power sources. And I would notice that these crew members here are kind of phased out, okay? They're not fully corporeal like this being Mana that I was talking to that is a great deal bigger than they were. Mana was bigger, but also third dimensional corporeal. Okay, it's where those beings were kind of phased out. Man, I'm not gonna. You can see this is a sign of me getting really crazy with these pictures, and forget it, I'm gonna stress myself out trying to show each individual picture. That's what's happening here. I'm getting off topic. Anyway, point being, that's something you could go to my YouTube channel and look at Mana. There's a picture I did, Mana in the Great Barrier Reef. The pictures of Mana are on there, and that's how that being is connected to what I believe is brain coral on this planet. And it comes to a point when does coral and what we have super coral now that is resistant to bleaching effect, like we're seeing in the Australian and the Caribbean. And is that a type of a coral goes sentient and goes galactic either in the past or in the future? I don't know. All right. But anyway, food for thought on that. But anyway, in that room, there are these eggs in every different room of this craft. All right. I've got this one right here. What is it? Yeah, I said this. It's actually the mother of the hybrids. She was on that craft also. There it is. She's on this craft also. This is a different room. This was the one at the end. And what isn't on here, there was a big egg in the back of that room. Okay. And I'll count on the side over here, actually, the side over here. And what happened was, okay, that at that point, I was so sick at the very end of this that a couple of these lights emerged from the one of these eggs. One of them was like a pink one. Another one was yellow that looked like it had a Saturn like type of ring around it. Looked like some type of plasma. And one of them attached right here. The yellow one was here, and the blue one attached right here, like to my rib cage. I immediately started feeling a lot better, like I wasn't quite as dizzy. Because at the point I was near this being right here, okay, this being right here was so telepathically active that this is the one I've described. I think it was on Jessica's show. I talked about the eyes were much bigger, okay, much bigger than, and the head was, the eyes were humongous. And it's telling me that I need to try to fix this device down, and I had to fix it. It's malfunctioning, it could hurt somebody. And this being is very, very worried, okay? It's coming in so strong telepathy. I said, first, I've never even seen anything like all this around me. I can't do anything with this. And she's putting in my mind, you built this. It's ancient. It's ancient. It could hurt somebody. Hurt who? And then that's when all of a sudden I felt like I was floating across this room and I was smashing against that melanin dominant eye. Like my nose was right against it. Okay. And that's when I got so sick. And suddenly I was back in my body. Okay. And what I'm telling you is, I'm sure she did, is she bilocated my dream body, my energy body, through her optical nerves. I see, on a conscious level, I see no other way to describe that. No technology was needed for that. That's why we're dealing with some of these beings or something that we're not being told. People are so worried about SSP and some of these other things and these negative stuff. Sorry to say that, but I mean, just the negative we're not talking about stuff like this. And thank God I wasn't in danger here. This wasn't a deal where I could be, if that being could do that to me, that tells you how some things could happen to someone like Carla Turner. You know how much I freaked out on all this stuff when I started reading what's happening to her? I said before, I come from the air capital of the world, and there's a big Air Force base on the side of my town, okay? And all that stuff come out of it. All those aircraft come out of where I live, where I grew up. So I examined a lot of this. That's why I got into hypnosis and got into screen memories. I had to know, what if the G man was getting to me? You know, wasn't the case, but I had to know. That's why I'm so specific and adamant about my experiences. And people try to say, "Oh, you were in DARPA. I saw you." No, you did not. I didn't have experiences like that. You know. So anyway, that's why, but I'm trying to be somebody that bridges between SSP, positive contactees. We've got to make a tapestry. We can't all be at odds, and there's so much different contact that there's enough for everybody, enough for us to learn in all sorts of different ways. Anyway, so going back to that, all right, these two lights that came out and helped me during this experience, because I mean, when I was like snapped back in my body, you don't understand, I was about to pass out. I'm for real, beyond throwing, I was about to pass out. This experience was about done. And when those lights came out of that egg, they attached and they're changing my biofield, okay, or my timeline, it felt like, to be honest, my time field. And then I was put in this room where I was sitting and sent back. It was like a hyperbaric chamber, it kind of felt like. It's very bizarre. But anyway, point saying, sorry, I know I'm being long on this, folks, but the lights were actually life forms. I think probably along the lines of corporeal crew member or command officers, and that's why some of those beings that are phased out are in those rooms looking at the eggs, some sort of communication going on. And even more than that, I will tell you, these eggs, okay, is when I talked about some of these beings coming from what, boy, screw it. Y'all seen the pictures now. The craft I'm talking about that had the wormholes in it, the bridge or whatever that was, this is a craft. And this is something that Rudy Shields forced me to deal with too. There's no other way around it mathematically, he was saying. But this is a craft that actually was able to project and create its own makos, its own black holes, its own wormholes, and choose the one for the most coherency to whatever universe it was going to. So when I tell you that thing changed from a medical metal thing into this tri-pyramidal Merkaba, what I was witnessing was a pattern of unfoldment for this craft to match whatever its destination was. Okay. And I've talked about that before. We've got here, this universe is based on the spin. We've got other ones that may be based on crystalline, based off amorphous metals, based off the pyramid, based off other shapes. And that takes us into why some of these shapes, like the cube, can be used to transport materials or energy on board these craft from one dimension to another. And during this manifesting project or process, this is important stuff, I think. Anyway, so looking at those eggs, now what I believe were path of coherency to the universe or dimension these beings come from, these non-corporeal plasma type life forms or whatever some of them were, and why they're remaining on board in those eggs, because even that part of the craft where I could exist and they could exist that was making me so sick was still like them being at a fish out of water. And that's why they stay inside those eggs. So those weren't power sources, okay? And this is what I'm describing to you right now, folks. Keep it at 100 is a real a multi-dimensional ship, for real. Okay, it's not like the Enterprise. It's not just you go on the holodeck. It's a whole other thing going on. You've got some corporeal beings in there, some non-corporeals, some partially, all these different levels of manifestation. All right, dimensionally, universally, because anyway, sorry. All right, I'm almost done here, and it's just the space remoras, because these are organisms, okay, and sometimes they have organisms like remoras attached to sharks. Okay, you've got that, and man, that's most of what I want to talk about. So I'll start going into chat. One more thing. God, I've got these pictures all over the place. So you're like the mad scientist. Okay, anyway, one thing that I think that's really important too that I want to discuss briefly is another type of organic craft that I think a lot of people don't know about or talk about. And it's called the Lenticular ship. All right. And it was once these Romanians that put out a video about it. And they got like taken down everywhere, no longer exist. Except for if you're on my Patreon, I've got a thing of it on there. Anyway, sorry, but they talked about this lenticular ship, and I'd heard about it before, okay, and partially through experiences, but it's not something I was, but where I was, but I heard this, okay, and even to the point of where I believe that when Louis Farrakhan was talking about this craft that is above the earth, that is spinning similar to Ezekiel's wheel, he's somewhat close, but he's talking about the lenticular craft. And the lenticular craft sits between the moon and Earth, okay? And it's huge. It's phased out to a degree. And what they're doing, it's something similar to what these SSP people are talking, but it's not a negative experience. They're taking people up there and they're training them, like a bunch of people, and training them not to be super soldiers and things, but they're training them in consciousness. And they're doing it in the dream bodies, okay, while people are asleep. So I think that's important. So I'm not trying to discredit SSP people at all. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm saying there's another type of training going on. I've wound up having some clients I've done that have been to this lenticular ship. So that's just something else I want to bring up because it's organic. And it's another craft like the one I'm talking about that can actually create other beings inside its belly, inside its bottom, reproductive. And you have some of these craft that you have civilizations that are giving consciousness to create these craft. They're created out of consciousness and organics. It's really important we expand our parameters of contact and include that kind of stuff. There's all sorts of stuff going on here. So, and I want to try to make platforms to where someone like me isn't just looking on the internet, researching all this stuff, and it doesn't conform to hardly anything I experienced. That's frustrating. Or that I didn't see anybody that looks like me. So, or they're talking about melanin dominant extraterrestrial stuff you hear about when you start studying Kemet and studying things like this. It's just interesting. So anyway, hopefully I'm not failing out. Okay, here's going to this now. Stephen Wolf, what's happening? I was curious. Oh, boy, that stuff's moving fast. Oh, wow. Sorry, folks. I should have been looking over here, but I get carried away. Atma Ra, can you emphasize on the organite on the ship, please? It's I thought I kind of went through that pretty good, but what it is more it's the life energy component, all right, and it's how they bring that. And a lot of times they will harness that from water. And so we're very important to see USOs, over water, like I told you earlier. A lot of times they're grabbing that life energy and they're processing it, like in the one I showed you earlier, the one that's, oh gosh, actually found one easy. Oh, what a stress relief. This one again, the gyroscopic one, okay? How it is actually generating a type of life energy that they have pulled. I believe that they're using this box, everything is pulling from probably water, or sometimes it's the crew. They've given some of their life energy, like Kundalini energy, and that gives them a symbiotic connection with the craft itself. Okay, it's their energy that making this actually work. So it's a life energy. In this case here, they're taking it Atma Ra, and they're polarizing it somehow into the polarizing light. And this light is what they were calling me. They said two things on there. It's one thing is they called it the living light, and the other one they called it this. I call it AGLE, angelic golden liquid energy. And when I say that, the way this gold, she's got it gold like yellow, but this was a deeper gold than that. And when I say that, this gold, this light is almost so thick, it's almost tangible. But it's okay. It reminds me of I don't know what age you all are, but when I was a kid, there was this commercial that was Miss Butterworth, and she's on there, Miss Butterworth, I pour real slow, and you see that she's pouring like they pour in this deep golden syrup going over these pancakes, like perfect looking. But the consistency, the polarization of this light is somewhat similar. Now, I've had experiences I don't talk about really publicly that were because they weren't quote unquote physically. They weren't physical like these ones. They were more astral, dream-like, okay? It's different. You can't touch things. It's slightly different. But on those ones, I've seen people in dream bodies getting healed by a type of a light coming out of these devices that look like silk, kind of look like silk, like spider webs almost. Not quite what they call angel hair, not quite like that, but similar. Okay, and some type of a healing that they're doing on people's astral bodies, on their dream bodies. Those people weren't sitting on those beds physically. There's something else going on. In fact, I've got a bunch of pictures of these Andromeda Council members. I'm definitely not going to that one because it's a different experience. Oh, wait, no, right here. Oh, right here. Right here. These beings, the most I've ever been, quote unquote, not quite experimented on, it was when I had this biobed experiment or experience. And I talk about this on my YouTube channel. It's called the biobed. But these beings, these little guys, and these individuals were little. Do you understand? When I tell you that they were knee high, is pushing it. Okay, they were little, and they had these devices in their hand, these rods that had these crystals on them. Again, looks like quasi crystals to me. Very odd configuration, and light. It's emitting bioluminescence inside, and it's got these little like it looked like to me fiber optics coming off it, and they're moving around. Okay, so that's but anyway, point being, they're in symbiotic connection with the ship through these what look almost like racing stripes on their suits. That's but these guys are little, and people I've been asked a lot, well, Barry, do they feel like robots to you? No, they feel like I felt emotions coming off them. I mean, it was doing their work or whatever. And they kept putting these crystals, they're waving them over me, but they never touched me. Not even the fiber optics touched me. And I asked, and then on this bed that's got this light that's moving up and down. I'm like, I'm thinking to these people, what are you doing? Are you copying me? That's what it seemed like, kind of. I've only seen a copying machine that has a light that moves like that. And they're telling me, no, we're helping awaken other DNA, or what do they call it? Quantum DNA of your DNA, because you don't believe in yourself. Some other things they were saying, but it wasn't like an experiment hostile or anything. And they even asked me to get down on the bed. And when they're telepathically telling me this, there are other beings in the room too. One of them, Mana, they're all asking me like telepathically to get down on the bed. I'm like, no, because it looked like it was jagged, because it looked like it was almost rubies and diamonds and crystals, like all sticking up, sapphires sticking up, like all melded together, but they're sticking. It looks sharp. Well, cut my back up. They're telling me it won't. So eventually, I just did it because I wasn't being forced to. If I would have kicked one of those little blue guys, I think all four of them probably went through the wall. It was little, man. Anyway, sorry. That's the long explanation you get when I look at these chats. So yes, I do. Yes, I do have a PayPal. It's under nightcloud2016@gmail.com. nightcloud2016@gmail.com. I'm trying to set up another one that's for my business, but it's taking me time to get the thing transitioned over. So that's my email. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Anybody wanted to, that's really nice. I can't see who it was now. They're gone. Stephen Wolf. Thank you, Steve Wolf. You follow me on a couple places. You're part of Jessica's crew, I think. So thank you. It's really nice. Really nice. With Black Sunrise. I don't know who that is. Sorry, Lakeside Laura. Why am I bloated when I come back from a ship? That's interesting. That's interesting. On a physical experience, I can't testify to that as much as I have actually being elated after an experience, being like blissed out a little bit. And that kind of goes along with the loss of memory that kind of starts happening the further you get from the event horizon. When it comes to like feeling bloated after experience, honestly, I think I'm picking this up, that it's got something to do with salt retention. Okay. And it might be a dehydration going on in there also of some type. Wow. That's interesting. I've not heard that exactly. Thank you for asking that question. Sorry, I don't have a definitive answer for you though. Rat food. I'm always suspect of SSP experiencers. They say stuff I just can't believe. I've experienced some of that because here's the thing. We've got people that have experienced things that have been exposed to that targeted individual, technology. And then we've got others that are into fantasy. And then we've got others that are mentally ill and delusional. Okay. And those three demands a hell of a lot of discernment, but I know that I met people that I have a lot of respect for, like Tony Rodriguez, and him. And when I first met him, I've told this story actually recently. I don't want to sound like a broken record. When I first met him, I perceived that like probably Tony and Matthew Morning did not like me. And I say that because certain people in these communities will just avoid me, especially on social media. And so that seemed like they were doing that. And then lo and behold, right after COVID, I go to Cocoa Beach, Florida to speak at Liz Laurie's conference, Starseed Adventures, I think it was called. And I ride in there with Tony Rodriguez to the show with him and what's that lady's name? Kate Awakening, and Tony's wife at the time. We all rode in there. And the conversation we had was just great. Then at the celebration dinner, reward ending dinner, he wound up sitting right next to me. And we talked for, the whole time, all night. And then we wound up driving back and sitting there waiting for our flights back from the conference. And we talked for a long time then. And, great communication I had with him, but I didn't really know his story at that point. He had, at the other conferences, he always spoke right in front of me. And I get nervous before I speak, so I can't go hear the other person speak. I'll like be off track or something. I just have to just go up there and speak. But so he told me a story. And, he wasn't saying he was SSP. That's not what he was saying. He started crying on me, and he was saying he was a slave. And during the whole time, he's telling me for 2 hours his encounters and stuff, what happened and everything, and how it's generational. And it was all I could think was 21 back thing. I always think it's just, oh, thank God none of that happens to me. And I've not been through that. Thank you. Thank God. So in that way, and he's trying to get evidence to support what he's saying. So I think that takes it into a different realm. And we have some things backed up, like this problem the Milky Way has with slavery. And, that's something when William Tompkins talked about that. I did a video about that too, but he talked about that, saying the Milky Way is a little more primitive than a lot of the other galaxies. And we have a problem with slavery here. Throughout this galaxy, you've got these lower races that do that, but with advanced technology. And I know there's a bunch of y'all that can take that further. Some of them might be mantids, reptilians, this and that. I personally think a lot of them are non-corporeal. Okay. But anyway, so trying to take that and kind of balance that out in between what is real and what isn't, you know what I mean? It's kind of difficult, but I try not to put down so much. But here's the problem I have, Rat Food. Okay. and something that people have got a little upset with me about, right along with telling people the truth, which is to step into the light when you pass, to listen to these other people telling you that nonsense that can't support really what they're saying. Okay. And it kind of goes along with that. But here's the problem, Rat Food. The SSP narrative is dominating social media so much right now in these communities that it seems to be an attempt to rewrite the contactee narrative. And I say that because you've got target individuals and it's starting to become a hive mind thing. And when you have people like Dr. David Jacobs, that before he died was talking about the technology he worked at MI, MTI, and all those other places he was working at. Oh gosh, that's not right. Anyway, point being, just he talked about a lot of that technology that was not just computer interfaces, but simulation, dream targeted incubation technology. All right, and all of it, how it puts you into a hive mind. It puts a lot of these individuals into a hive mind. And when I get people telling me they're having the exact same experiences, they're all building these ships, they're all flying these ships, they're all around the hybrids. But they're, I've had clients, they're the exact same thing. And a lot of that sometimes it's screen memories. That's not even what they really went through. Okay. Now I can't speak for everything, and I'm not trying to discredit anybody's experiences, but we have to look at that and why experiences like me, look, I know there's been a consistent effort to silence me. Okay. I've had people to tell me, I've had emails before telling me to shut my mouth, and I've been threatened before. Okay. And I've gone through a lot of that stuff. I just don't publicize it a lot. I know the biggest thing that you would see is that when I first started out on YouTube, I was getting like thousands and thousands of views. I really wasn't paying attention because I didn't want to be on YouTube. PC kept filming me and wanting to do it, and then people started asking me to keep doing it, so I just did it. But then it started getting real popular, I guess. And then the counts were really high, like they were like 10,000, 8,000 for almost anything I put out. And then so I started looking into it on analytics. It had like places like coming up where I didn't think they even spoke much English. Places like Israel, Denmark, and other places, Norway, where I was getting a lot of views. Then all of a sudden, I guess that stopped. And all of a sudden, my views went down to like a couple thousand, 1,000, 500, and just a few hundred. And that's kind of where it is now, somewhere between a few hundred to 2,000, something like that. And I didn't really pay attention to these guys approaching me after my last ASETI 2019 conference. At the very end, the conference is over. These two gentlemen, Rob and Rod, very cool cats. They approached me and they said, "Man, you got shadow banned. We like the work you're doing, but you got shadow banned." Like, what the hell is that? And like, look at your count, your view count, and also people that have subscribed to you have even unsubscribed or have to push the bell like 2 more times to even get notified that you're putting stuff out. I was like, well, what happened to me? It's not like I'm changing the world in that way. They said, "Man, you say all the wrong stuff. You talk about the creator, you talk about God, you talk about racial unity, you talk about racial stuff." They don't like that, man. Most of these cats told they put you in that algorithm because of those words. And then I started looking. I was like, then all I could say was, "Oh, well, that sucks." I started looking at the count. I would never do that. So I realized, oh, well, that's because there's some sort of a negative inorganic being that is over social media and over likes and over views, and people start tripping out, man. And entwines our energy fields in a way that you didn't think it does because it's cyberspace, but it does. Like I can catch someone's intent when they give these comments. I can intend if it's hostile, if it's positive, I can sense it. I'm empathic like a lot of y'all, okay? And I don't like that crap. People come at me with that BS, man. I think it sucks. You know what I mean? I mean, some of it you got to take, but some of it you don't. You're not making no money on this, so why we have to take crap? There's nothing. I signed no contracts to say I have to argue with fools. Sorry, but I didn't. Anyway, so going back to that was some question. Hopefully, I answered that. My PayPal, it's Nightcloud, NIGHTCLOUD 2016 at gmail.com. And it's going to be under another Littleton's name because it's for my 92-year-old father can use it too. Weird Skinny Beans. Rumi, that's cool. Reality is flexible and different for everyone. Please don't criticize. You never know. Oh, thank you, Colleen Gorman. Thank you. Atma Ra. Andromedans feel like friends to us. Okay. Now you're gonna make me find. Oh, thanks, Atma Ra. Now I gotta go through all these pictures and find this picture, but I'm gonna do it. It's worth it. It's a different experience, but there's nothing that says I have to just talk about the only one thing on here. It's contact that matters. Okay. It's actually, and on my YouTube channel, this video is called The Bio Bed. Okay, the Bio Bed experience. And in this room were several different beings, okay? And that's okay, hold on. Oh boy. Anyway, on board was in this room were several different beings, all right. And one part were these little blue guys, all right. Okay, here's the picture of Mana. Mana was in that room too. I've seen Mana on several different experiences, and it had me wondering why beings like Mana here and why beings like Xandar, the insectoid I've showed many times, came forward when I was younger, and then they like stepped back. And then the experiences stopped being so physical, being on board ships as much as it went telepathic, as it went telethought. And they were telling me, that it's because you that's what you responded to. So we're all these things. They're telling me, spiritually, these non-corporeals, they're all these things, but my butt would only pay attention to the ships. The ships always caught my attention, because I had weird experiences as a kid, and then that put me on Star Trek and science fiction. Was tripped out, as my brother Mitch would say. You be freaking out, man. Anyway, so here's anyway, shout out to my brother. I wouldn't be public right now if it wasn't for him. He really, both my brothers really emphasized I go forward with that demon that interviewed me for the first time. Interesting how demons have infected to doing interviews with demon. Anyway, sorry, back to this and the Andromedans, all right, at Mara. Sorry. See what I mean? So I get carried away. Okay, this is actually that experience, the bio bed experience. This is the bed I talked about that had the crystals on it, that with the sharp, it looked sharp, but I didn't lay on it. That's me. And these little blue guys with their little wands. And behind us, Mana is back there, okay? And then you've got this other being. And, all I got, like, intuitively, this was a medical being, a medical. And what they're telling me, and Mana is not from Andromedan, but these two must be. And they're telling me that they're showing me like one of the arms that they come from one of the lower part, one of the end parts of one of those spirals on that one of those arms in that galaxy. And I'm also being shown what looked to me like Magellanic clouds, okay, and how these Magellanic clouds are at a certain point in like that galaxy, wherever it is they come from, or they're not the Andromeda, that say that constellation or whatever, solar system, whatever, where they're dealing with. Anyway, it's got these Magellanic clouds, and actually, when a ship goes through that, there's an exiting point outside of Jupiter. There's an exiting aperture outside of Jupiter for these Magellanic clouds that are from Andromeda. So it's like actually a Rosen bridge to that. That's what they had shown me. So that's what Tony Rodriguez and I hit it off on stuff. He was talking about a large portal outside of Jupiter. He couldn't possibly know that unless he'd experienced something, because that's how I found out. Anyway, so but they told me during this at Mara that not just do they have ships, but they can come physically through that. The ones that are beings like that can actually use their the makos of their body, the black holes of their body to teleport. And I had somebody that attacked my friend Jessica because on her show, the last one I had done, I mentioned the word Corey Good, and that just triggers the hell out of some people. Look, I'm not saying I believe everything that guy says. I'm not a proponent one way or the other. What I said was that I met the individual. He talked to me excessively several different times when we were doing this conference, and to us, and I described an experience where he ran up and hugged me. And I don't normally allow beautiful women can hug me, but I'm not really into hugging guys. Just like that Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who. I don't think I'm the huggy type this time, but I let him do it so I get a read on him. And I said I sensed Artron energy on him, ARTRN, a word I took from Doctor Who, but it's when people have been either on board one of these craft, like I'm showing you, or been around some of these beings that I'm showing you with this Kundalini energy with them. It does something. It irradiates some of the cells of your body, and I can detect it on other contactees many times. Our friend Jessica, for those of you that are here, I kid her quite a bit on her show because for some reason I liked her anyway, and I could just tell she was cool for this conference that was upcoming when it was Helen, Georgia, and then we met in person, and we hit it off immediately. And I had no idea that was her first conference or anything. She didn't act that way, and we conversed quite a bit. But one of the first things I asked her, so you're a contactee. And when I met her and hugged her, I said, I could feel it immediately. I said, you're a contactee. And I asked her, and she said, she got real quiet. Her eyes got kind of big, like she's going to say y'all or something like that. Y'all be talking, but she wouldn't say that. I said, I know I can feel it on you. I know you are. You're just not telling people. And that led one thing to another, So anyway, that Artron energy is what I felt on Corey. So I had to just acknowledge that first. And what I will state again, I do not like the bureaucracy that surrounds him and a lot of those other whistleblowers. I don't like the fact he was in court saying it's intellectual property. I made it up. That discredits so much of what he said in my eyes. All right. You don't, like I just said, you don't need to make stuff up here because this stuff is crazy enough as it is. And it comes to a point where ego becomes so much. Like I could tell you right now, if anybody were to show Mana, I'm going to go sue somebody. How am I going to do that? That's not that being. It's not my being. Okay, it's not my intellectual property. The picture, yeah, and all that, but it's not my being. I guess that being is to helping humanity. Okay, so that's where that stuff kind of gets blurred. And I've never experienced the blue avians, so I don't have anything to do with that. I mentioned this experience with him one of the last times we were talking. We were walking up that thing on Isetti, the main path from the gate. And we're walking, and I just mentioned, I said, man, you're nothing like what I thought you'd be. And that's because I heard this Catholic spirit is intimidating people and all these other things. And he didn't have that energy to be at all. But I don't know. That's just me. But we're walking up there. I said, you're nothing like what I thought you'd be. And he's like, what'd you think I'd be like? I said, I don't say it. I said a dick and a prick. And I'm sorry, but Barry Littleton takes no pricks and no dicks nowhere, homie. And he kind of laughed. He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he's kind of nervous, cat." He's like, "Well, just get ready for the since you don't hate me, get ready for the next shoe to drop." And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh no, he says, Barry, just get ready for the other shoe to drop. Since you don't hate me, they're gonna say I converted you. So whatever happens, please don't stop eating chicken." And I stopped and I turned around and I looked at him. And like I said, he had this mullet thing with all this grease on it, this goop. And it's a mullet, like an 80s Jew mullet. And the wind is blowing and the wind has caught it and dried out one side of it over here. So it's blowing out like that, like Einstein. It's some weird stuff. And I just started laughing. I just started laughing hysterically. I said, man, that's funny as hell. And he said, well, I got to make a little jest of it because it's the attacks that come and all that. So, that's all stuff there I was mentioning on her show, and she got attacked for it. So sorry, Jessica was not promoting him. I'm not promoting his work. I'm just telling you I interact with the guy. I've had a platform now where I've got to interact with a lot of these major people now. And I can tell you what they feel like in person. How many of them have Artron, any of them? How many of them don't? How many of them I almost can guarantee you can't do the stuff they're telling you. Okay? I'm just going to say it, man. I'm not saying you got that con man demon out there in Australia trying to have another ascetti telling people that, come out here and see all this. That cat's probably summoning demons. If I did to any human being what he did to me that hurt other people, okay, he's hurt other people, that if I did that to anyone, I would fall out of grace just like that. I wouldn't get any more information like I share with you. Okay, I have to make stuff up or pretend I'm a guru when I'm not. I'm not a guru. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a counselor, not a therapist. I'm none of those things anymore. I'm just a brother who's had experiences, a normal cat, and I've tried to explain them, figure them out. And I believe action is the realm. Warriors act in the realm of action. Okay, so I will forever speak against that individual because he's deceiving people and he's going to hurt somebody else. Okay, period. And God forbid I ever see them in person again. Nothing I won't say in their face, believe me. But that probably will never happen because they're a damn narcissistic coward. And I'm speaking out y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Slattery. Forget that dude, man. He sucks. You know, I had criticism from the black community when I first started working with him. Saying, why are you working with him? He sucks. He's messed up. The black community just hated him. But I still try to give him the better of the doubt. You know, and there's other people in these communities. You go to my YouTube channel, go to the interviews. See some of those people I worked with that I do not anymore, that I did a bunch of work with. And there are people that are deceiving people, and I don't like it. Okay? These people turned it. Was one person that I did so many shows with, they got mad at me about the light. That's what it was, but they never said anything to me. They just sneaked away and then tried to do things behind my back and sneaked away like a snake. And they've got a following of like 80,000 people, 90,000 people. And they're telling people that stuff. Oh, Dr. Blair told me not to go into light. And I've got a couple of clients that were all into Dr. Blair. When did he say that? I can't find it, and they can't find it either. When? Where? Back to this. oh, bullet with grease. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to talk about the guy like that, but I mean, it did look like that, though. This thing was, what is it? And then he said that, don't stop eating chicken. Oh, my Lord, it killed me. Okay, what's up? Brown Dwarf's in the house. All right, what's happening, brother? Keep up the good work, my man. Yeah, I think most of the people here are experiencers, probably. And okay, that's Scarlet Fire. I bet most of the people here are experiencers. It always feels that way. And to be honest with you, okay, and I say this, I enjoy going to those conferences. They're cool. You know, that's why I kept doing them. Every time I get invited, I'll go to one. Except for most of the time anyway. But it's the people that in the attendees, they're all contactees, mediums, psychics, and most of them should be up there talking before me. Okay. And I mean that honestly, you know, and they all need to be heard. And if I ever did a conference myself, I would make sure that there was a time where all the speakers got to listen to all the people in the audience, at least for a couple hours, and just get some feedback. They want to be heard a lot. And you know, something else, what I'm saying is no joke that some of these people aren't who they appear to be. You know, things about those conferences, you go to a big one, you've got so many psychics, so many mediums, so many true contactees in the audience. Get up there and start lying. Be lying, like that individual I'm talking about. Get up there and lie. And you're going to have a whole bunch of people in that audience that know it. And more than that, some of the beings might tell on you. I'm keeping it 100 anyway. Going back, and like I said, I'm nobody special, right? I'm just had a contact, and there's most everybody. I think I always said 70, maybe 80% of our population had contact, and it happens in the dream state to a lot, and people just can't recall it, or they're not talking about it. But I knew that always, and now I've been blessed enough to have this small platform, and I can tell you it's true. Nothing at all I've seen to discourage what I'm saying. No data to not back that up. You know, in fact, that one individual that I mentioned, one of the people I mentioned, I spoke at 2 of their conferences. Okay, one of them I was asked, the other one I was the backup person because other people wouldn't go because they thought it was cursed. And I went and spoke at that one too. Okay, it was just before I went to Australia. Anyway, so I wasn't feeling good at that point, really, but I went and did that, and never mind all of that, you know. But it was somebody at that first one that had said to me, as a young lady sitting up there, melanin dominant young lady, really outgoing, you know, and she asked a few questions. And my buddy Ray Hernandez interrupted her twice, but I was making me mad. But when she was talking to her, she kept saying, I haven't had any experiences, yada, yada. And I could feel this Artron energy coming off her, okay? I said, are you, and I asked her, I said, are you sure? She said, no, I haven't had any. I said, have you seen a UFO? And she said, yeah, a couple of times. I said, one of the times, was there a crowd of people there and only you, maybe one other person could see it? And she's like, well, yeah. I said, you know, you feel like a contactee. I feel that Artron energy coming off you, and you need to go through a regression for that, for seeing that ship. And you'll realize, especially it was a time before drones were everywhere, the amount of information that could be transferred to your superconscious and subconscious, especially superconscious, instantaneously is unreal, especially when we're dealing with creatures, beings that might be on the nanoscale or the pico scale, in the minuscule, and how civilizations get smaller and smaller, like the more information they can put on the silicon chip. But when you start dealing with that, it's a whole nother thing going up. And that's why a lot of these beings will take our dream bodies and interact with us through the dream body, the energy body, because it doesn't pertain to the same parameters as this body. So you maybe have an experience on a craft that feels like it's the size of like the Enterprise, or the size, normal size, it's big. But in reality, these are beings that are like microscopic or pico, but they've constricted your dream body into having that experience there with full cognitive ability. It's important. We have to pay attention to that. Okay, when dealing with USOs, pay attention to sometimes maybe when you're looking over water, seeing those little what look like glitter coming out of the water, or glitter going into the water, or sparkles. Those oftentimes are not just entities, those can be craft, almost what we could call a swarm of craft. See, we don't understand how all the aquatics work, how all the underwater beings work from different, especially those that come from water worlds, from different dimensions or different universe. For those that are on my Patreon, please look at, oh gosh, Obenar, the video about Obenar, and God, was it Oshar and Obenar. That's a being that came to me. I was doing these meditations. This is when I was really having the meditation when I was younger, and I was doing these different Kriya Pranayama exercises. All right, and one of them is the exercise that deals with the pineal gland that was developed by B.H. Stein. All right, it's a killer one. I've showed that one before. But anyway, and then others I was see, and even without doing that one, I start seeing this really thick green light, bright green light. It's floating around in my third eye. Then I'm starting to see it, floating around when I open my eyes. And it told me it was from Water World, and it said it was here to restore transonial enlightenment to Earth and the human race. And it's putting in my mind's eye a huge type of quasi-crystal being constructed in one of our oceans on a different frequency, on a different dimension, different frequency rather. And there's like different civilizations doing it the same way I mentioned different civilizations putting their conscious into creating a craft, their energy and their energy consciousness into creating a craft, several civilizations coming together to doing that. Okay. In the same way as what I'm referring this to. All right. And that's, it's anyway. Glitter and sparkles, they're unicorns. I'm saying anywhere like the time I saw that a lot too. I mean, I've seen several times. What time was Beaver Lake in Arkansas? That's a man-made lake. I was at Beaver Lake, and at night I saw a bunch of sparkles come out of that water, go in the water near the dock where the old man that I used to own the facility that I ran owned. So yeah, it's a place like that. I don't think you see any unicorns out there at Beaver Lake, but those sparkles and things. But remember, those can be craft, and conscious contact is very possible with stuff like that. It's stuff. The contact isn't always what we think it is. So. Yes, Colin Gorman, if people take themselves too seriously, their ego blocks themselves from things. Agreed. And then you've got the negative self, and the negative self is so much of our energy goes into that. That's where a lot of the negative thoughts come from, the negative viewpoints, and then we endure trauma, And after we endure trauma, our first decisions create negative identities. And God knows there's enough trauma around here for everybody. So so you get tons of negative identities, and that's what it is. The negative self fractures into these negative identities. But there's so much of our personal energy involved in the negative identities, in the negative self, okay, that it can actually create poltergeist on our own selves. We can create that and decreate it too. And then you've got these others where everybody wants to call them a negative, beings, archons, whatever else, demonics, whatever you want to call them. And we've already got this negative self fire burning. All they do is pour grease on the fire and help it blow up. You've already got negative thoughts, so they just add other ones that aren't even your own. And when I say that, the most ingenious attack strategy that the dark forces use is they've given us their mind. And that's what I'm talking about. They've given us that, if I was going to be a religious cat, which I am not, and people talk about the Lucifer thing, the Satan thing, what that being or that legion has done has given us the free will of choice to have a negative self. And in turn, that inhibits us so much, because it's like you endure those traumas, then automatically the first decisions you make are bad. Decisions you make during trauma are very seldom good ones. And then immediately that negative identity forms, but the subconscious mind comes up and grabs it and buries it. But then it's just like one of these damn things, all right? You got these damn apps in the back that just keep running and running. The phone says, oh, putting them to sleep, but it doesn't really. Your phone gets hot, draining the battery. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with these negative identities and the negative self. A lot of our energy is there through self-reflection, okay? And through ego. But self-reflection is a big one. So why is it humans aren't magical beings? I mean, come on, look at some things about our thought processes. And when you can really see a person, like I mentioned in the video I just put out maybe about a week ago, psychically colorly blind, how I thought I wasn't seeing because I wasn't seeing all these different, I see the energy fields of people going far out. And I see the assemblage point too, but I wasn't seeing, I normally see it in like either a white or a silver type of a color. It was never these bright colors like I saw in Paulson's book, it's supposed to be all these different blues and greens. I didn't see it like that. So I thought I wasn't seeing, but we don't all see the same way. So that's why I call it psychically colorblind. Like I'm not colorblind with these eyes. I see pretty good, although I'll admit for you Caucasian people, I had problems with the difference between a redhead and a strawberry blonde. I got a friend that I went to school with for years, and I always used to call her Red. She's a real redhead hair, I thought. She told me one day, she said, Barry, actually, I'm a strawberry blonde. I was like, what the fuck? They look pretty close. Maybe I'm colorblind. I don't know. But anyway, seriously, on the psychic deal, though, that is a way that people think that it's like a psychic colorless blind. We don't all see in color the aura. Some of us just see basic grays, whites, or like when someone's sick, I can see darkness on the aura and other things like that. Okay, so, and that's the luminous cocoon is what it would be called. And I mentioned before that the luminous cocoon is brighter on some people, but you've got a part of it at the bottom that's even brighter, but like towards around our feet, ankles. But if you look at babies, okay, for a long time, they have not just the luminous cocoon, they have another, like a sheen around it, this other bright light around it that like is like a cocoon around, like a shield around the luminous cocoon. And I'm pretty sure it's pure awareness that we bring when we come back from our divine overself, from the creator part of us. We merge in this body. It's that part that's still with us. And I've said before, I don't know if they still slap babies on the ass to wake them up when they're born, or have them open their eyes or whatever. I don't know if they still do that, but I know when they used to, or when kids often open up their eyes at first, the babies do, they scream, they cry. But I think what it really is because they're still coming partially from the heavenly realms, and they're saying, "Oh my God!" when they see all this density and they see the grossness here, the material density. I think it's a shock to a certain degree, You know what I mean? But then people start goo goo gaga and start molding the perception and the attention, and we start getting able to deal with this more and more as time goes, all the way till a lot of our gifts are gone when we become adults. But by the same token, as when you're an adult, even teenage, I don't see that luminous sheen around people anymore. There's still a luminous cocoon around their bodies, but it's not this other coat. It's only at the down of their feet, or even if that, not at all. Why? It's because they gave us their mind, are using us for food. And that's the main one they eat. Because humanity has that extra sheen when they're born, it makes us predators for other forms, other inorganic beings that are some of them demonic in nature. Okay. You know, when I was a teenager, maybe 20 by then, I had an individual that I was working with, is teaching me some things, much older, and they had some knowledge, you know. And they had this deal. They had me come to their house, and we just go there, you know, do those back in the '90s, do those little smoke or something, you know. And and when I go to his crib, he's got these. It's blacked out. It winds up turning off the light, and it's just completely black in there, unless we're using the lighter or something. Okay. And in my peripheral, I started seeing shadows. Okay, you know, peripheral is black and white. I'd seen before, but these were shadows seeing in darkness. And he starts telling me, I figured you had enough energy for this. You can see. I know you'd see something, but you're still not seeing them. And so then when I start tracking them with my normal eye, I start seeing the different shadows. Like I said, there's some of them that are circular, some that are ovular, but there are others that are bigger and they're kind of dense. When I say that, it's like you can hear them or feel them, and they kind of are flying through, boom, boom. You know, they're called flyers by some. And I think they're the ones that are much more powerful, much more you don't want to come up against, much less in the little circular shadows or the over ones. Okay, we've got these different classifications of demonic, negative, inorganic beings that, you know, are feeding on us, and that's why we're their food, they're their cattle. And what they do, they keep us so limited here in the carnal area of existence and of perception. And then they do these things that cause these flare of emotions in us, these traumas, or these horrible things, these negative thoughts, because it's their thoughts. It causes us to have a flare of emotion, and then they just devour the energy. And I know that all y'all call it loose. Yes, they draw the loose. I still don't like that word because it ruins Jolly Ranchers for me. It seems like it's talking about Jolly Ranchers. I just can't help it. Anyway, that's just something to be aware of. Okay, and these are real things, are real problems that stop us from being quote unquote magical beings. So much of our energy being a negative self and negative identities. When you start freeing that, which is part of the work I do, that you start seeing that really we're energy beings that can become amassed, become huge beyond belief. We're energy creatures. Like our feelings are energy. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to. Oh, see, it's getting late here. I've been on for a minute. I'll probably go just a little bit longer. I'll probably wrap it up here. Getting like dehydrated or something weird. I also haven't had dinner and it's getting late. Mitchell Littleton, thank you for your candid reply. How's my brother in here? There he is. All right. What's up, bro? Thanks for coming in, man. Wow, that's a trip, man. You came up. I did an interview with Solretta a few days ago, and you came up on there. She told me to tell you hello. Yeah, right on. Yeah, my brother Mitch is, he's a good one. I had an experience like, for example, I have the ones he's in there. I had one talk about this called the acid rain experience. There's a video on my YouTube about that too. It's called the acid rain experience. Got a picture of it. I'll find it. And I'm sorry, no, even before that, it's the first UFO I saw was my mother. All right, I was 7 years old, and I mentioned this before. She was taking me because it's my birthday, and I'd gotten anybody my age will remember this. There was the Stretch Armstrong and the Stretch Monster. I had the Stretch Monster. And the first day I got it, I stretched the hell out of that thing, and it started leaking this red looking stuff or something. And my mother said, it's nuclear goo. It's probably toxic. We're taking it back. Get another one or whatever. So she was taking me back to Toy City, and we're coming from a store called Ardennes, and it was an outside mall. And as we're walking over, we hear this thing and see this craft up there, this UFO. And it's a big one, and it's generating it's making a sound. It's generating a humming sound that I know now. I tell you, I've heard on other craft. Let me see if I can find that picture of that craft. Anyway, but the thing is that I remember my mother saying, that it was maybe they're across the street, across Kellogg, they were doing these there were car lots over there. She said they must be doing like filming a movie or some sort of an advertisement. And then suddenly it was a dot and it was gone. Okay. But the thing is this, sorry, I can't find the picture. This craft had what appeared to be like almost windows on it. All right. And the crafts that I've been on board are organic. So they don't have screens, or they'll have windows unless you're like standing by some type of a screen or something like that. But this one had these windows on the outside of it with these grates. And, I couldn't, time goes on, and I like probably, maybe around 30, 31, 32 even. And my mother calls me up and says, you left all these magazines over here, stuff I'm going to throw out. They've been here for over a decade and some, come get it. So, I go over and it's these Omni magazines, a bunch of them. And I used to like Omni magazine because in the middle was a section called Antimatter section. And they show a bunch of different UFO type of stuff. And I was looking at all this magazine. I was looking at all these different UFOs they were showing in there. And my mother walked by with the laundry basket, and she pointed out, oh, that looked like the one you and I saw. I turned, looked at her, I said, what? And she started looking at me. She goes, you, Mr. Creepy Star Trek memory, you can't remember seeing that? And for some reason, I had to ask her a few questions, and so she triggered my memory. And my mother wasn't the most patient. You did get many questions, Joe. And Mitchell confirmed that. Anyway, so it kind of tripped me out. The only time I've not been able to remember something or had a memory lapse is when dealing with the star beings. Okay, and this is long before I ever had my accident and took my brain injuries before that. All right, to a point where I was like, man, I remembered it then, but I told Mitch, I said, man, it's almost like I didn't see it, man, because it's real weird. And he started yelling at me, yeah, you saw it, man. You and Mama talked me to death about it when I came home. Y'all definitely, he hadn't moved out yet. He said, man, y'all definitely saw it. You talked about it a lot. And tell everybody you've always been weird. Hey, thanks. Anyway, but that's just a situation there. And, it came later. I wound up getting actually regressed for that situation because I was somewhat disturbed that this lady named White Dove, there's a medium psychic that was in my hometown that I started dealing with when I was 16 up until almost my 30s. And she told me not long before that, she said, you saw a craft with one of your parents. The first craft you saw, there was an individual on board there. They gave you something. And so you thought they were just there on a scout mission, but it was about you. They're watching you. And I was like, New Age freak. I've not seen a ship with any parent. And she's looking at me. She said, oh, yes, you have. I think you can't remember it because of the contact that happened during it. And I kind of just wrote it off until that day when my mother said that. And then piecing things together, there's another deal that happened in this antique store that I talk about, where I was given this rock here. And it looks like river stone. It's not what it appears to be. And the gentleman that was in that store that I thought worked there that didn't was also this individual that I saw on this ship. Alex, A-L-L-E-X. A-L with a hyphen, L-E-X is the way he put it in my mind. That is something that is just, that comes up. It wasn't from my brother Mitch, not just want to come forward, but he validated that too. He's the one that told me, he said, tell everybody that you were weird decades before you ever had that accident. That has nothing to do with it. So yeah, but the fact I can still remember my experiences since my accident, since the brain injuries, everything is a blessing. They said I wouldn't be like that anymore. So let alone be talking to people about that stuff. And believe me, and I always said I would talk about this, but I wasn't really, because it doesn't do much for the career. You know what I mean? That was just more blowing smoke. But the accident changed things and kind of forced me to come forward in a weird way. Anyway, no, enough about that. Colleen Gorman again. I keep catching you. Day one of my son's life, my son's dad and I clearly heard hello in his crib. Later, I see lights in my peripheral vision around him. You know what brings to mind when you say that? I think of Paramahansa Yogananda and his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. He talks about being cognizant of going through the process of incarnating. And a lot of us don't have that. And then the next thing is that he remembers being a baby in the crib, and he's unaware of other like angelics kind of being around him. But also he was trying to talk to his parents, and it all was coming out. Way he couldn't talk. He said he had to wait for his body to catch up so he could speak. This when you said that, it kind of brought that to my mind, and that's good because honestly, Colleen, a problem is that we're not taught to really. Most people aren't anyway to really put a cocoon of protection around our children when they're in the womb, especially when they're in the incubator room. You know, things like that when they're young, and to really keep doing that repeatedly, the way we need to protect ourselves, them even more. We're not just taught that as a fundamental thing. So therefore, you have all these earthbound spirits that go to the incubator room and go to people, children that are in the hospital and join with them. You know, the last client I just did a few days ago, they had 4 or 5 on them, and 3 of them jumped them in the hospital when they were kids, when they were a kid. So they've been with them their whole life. And, you know, if it's not too many earthbounds attached to a person, I try to get as much information from each one that I can, because they're very chatty. They're very chatty. That's why they join with people, because no one can hear them, you know. And they say, you know, I'll ask, you've been with that individual their whole life. How have you been negatively influencing them? And those that won't try to, you know, some of them will come forth. Some of them want to try to act like they won't, but I'll break through that. I won't play with them really, because I'm going to make them leave if they BS with me. Regardless, they're going to leave. But if they BS, I won't cross them. I'll just get rid of them. But anyway, it's just the same thing. They say, I made them feel like a loser. People told me I was a loser my whole life. I lost a lot. So I made them feel like a loser, and they lose too. And they're doing that to that person their whole life. And they have no idea of it to a degree, you know? Anyway, so thanks for that, Colleen. Rocky Mountain Skywatcher, what's up? How you doing, man? Word. A lot of people in here. I can't see how many people are actually in the chat. Looks like 69 maybe. I don't know. That's cool. Thank you. Did they have blonde hair? Mitch, you talking about the dude on there? Man, he had God, I've got pictures of that, man. I said I wasn't gonna dig anymore, but they had, you know, when he had what I would call one, it was a mullet, like David Hasselhoff had it during Knight Rider, like the first season, maybe the first 2 seasons, he had this mullet. Dude had a mullet. There it is. He had a, oh, here's a ship too. He had a type of a mullet, all right? And to me, it looked like it was his hair looked kind of grayish, okay? And if I were going to put an age to him, I'd say he looked like he was pushing, 35, something like that, I would say. And here, that's him on the craft right there. He's the one standing up. And these guys that are sitting in the seats, they look like maybe they were not quite fraternal twins, or not identical, but fraternal to a degree. Not identical looking, but like they were related in that way. And they had these boxes on their chest that had these wires that went to the back, a box on the front and back, these big boxes, to the point even the seats are in the position where they don't get in the way on these boxes. And at first he's standing up, okay? He's standing, that's just a metal wall looking thing. He goes like that, and all of a sudden I can see through it. I can see the water tower in my city. I can look down. I can see my mother and I down there, okay? And I'm like looking at the I'm only looking up there a little bit. I wasn't only half paying attention. Apparently, I was thinking about Stretch Armstrong, different era. You know what I mean? But being that I could see almost down, like to fall down to the ground. I could see down. It was like past almost foot level where this, how transparent this was. This is the craft. During my presentations at those conferences, I'll show a picture of the guy in Mexico, can't remember his name now, but he took a picture of a craft that looks quite similar. That's what I'm talking about, having the windows there. And that chamber I'm in, I believe that's something that we would call similar to the chronovisor that's actually recording a time frame historically. So I think those individuals are historians. I call them charters, but I think that they're also historians, like the Temporal Commission that they advertised on Star Trek, the Temporal Integral Commission. That's kind of what I've nicknamed them, because I think they have something to do with that. It's a little better than Van Damme, the time cup, jumping under the underneath the semi. That was sucked. Anyway, one more thing I want to show you about that individual, though, Alex, and where he actually, there it is. Wow, Mitch must have brought me good luck, because I'm going to find these pictures now. This is where he gave me this rock. All right, and I'm going to describe this situation to you. As far as his hair, to me, it looked like it's kind of a grayish, a really light grayish. And, you know, like I said, I put in 35, 40s maybe. But I don't know much about Caucasian genetics, but if he was a little younger, would that be blonde? I don't know. And, you know, and I had to take, Mitch will tell you, I had to take a lot of heat, okay, because I talked a lot of crap about all the Nordics looking like Fabio and Christy Brinkley. But at that point, I was unaware that I had actually interacted with some Nordic type beings. But that's Alex there. So, and that's the rock. And the reason why I wanted this rock, okay, is because there was a TV show I was watching after school on Nickelodeon that was called Under the Mountain. It came on right after You Can't Do That on Television, where they dumped the slime on people, Moose, and a lot of more set, whatever. Anyway, it came on after that. And the gentleman was a guy named Mr. Jones, and he had come from another galaxy to fight these creatures called the Wilberforce, that were a type of symbiotic mud creatures that could even shape-shift into looking like people for a while before they started turning to mud type stuff again. But they were conquerors that conquered like all these different planets and destroyers, and they destroyed Mr. Jones's planet. But Mr. Jones's true body form, well, he looked like a person, but his true form was a green light. Okay, it was a green light, also really what he looked like. Anyway, and he had mentioned that he came from his civilization, his entire civilization consciously made these weapons, and that it takes two of them to use it, and another teammate or coworker, another partner came with him, and the travel from their galaxy was too long, and he died on the way. And so he was looking for human twins to help use these stones. And they were telepathic and other things. They looked just like this. And I saw it sitting in that thing, and that's why I wanted it. I wanted a rock. I was looking at it, but there's water going, it's like a waterfall little thing they have. And that guy comes out from around from like behind the back. And he starts saying, first thing he walks to me, he says, little man, or young man, do you think igneous rocks are metamorphic by nature? And it was an odd question, but I knew what that meant totally. And I was like, yeah, but it needs to be like Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. It needs to be immediate. The metamorphosis needs to be immediate. It takes millions of years. And he started laughing, going, it's not like that. Now, coincidentally, I had been at a time where my other brother, Reggie, was in town from LA, Los Angeles. He lived there many years. And he came in, and I was actually boiling the sandstone. I was boiling them and putting them in the freezer. I was trying to get them to change. You know, so point being, what do you know anybody that comes up and says something to a kid, a 7-year-old kid, like what he said to me, unless you know something about them, unless you knew something like I was doing that type of stuff, you know? And he winds up talking to me for a while, and he talked like a geologist. He felt like that, a scientist of some sort. And when it's over, he goes in and gets the rock. He said, I'm going to give this to you, but I want you to fill this out. He gives me a blue card. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I just took the rock, you know? And we're walking out. He says, that's a very special stone. You should put it under your pillow and dream with it. And we walked out. I remember sitting in the car, my mom's Lincoln, and she looked at me and said, well, that Caucasian man was certainly taken by you. And I was like, I don't care, man. I got this rock. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at the card too. And this card was actually for the Mineral and Gem Society for my state. I had no idea how much that was going to tie into my contact experiences and other things like that. So that's just something to bring up. And that's why he's the starting of what I call charters. And in my life, they seem to come around every 7 years. I meet somebody that like comes out of a crowd, or someone steps up to you and says something just heavy, really, really hardcore. And then they just disappear in the crowd. They're gone. Something that pushes your consciousness forward. You know what I'm saying? Every 7 years. That's the other thing next to the Mana picture. When I first came forward with that demon individual, people responded that the most to when I started talking about charters. That's happened to me. I think I was talking to Jessica's show the other day, said something like that happened to her or somebody I was interviewing with, you know, and so common that happens. And it's how many often that people come out of a crowd and interact with us, they're gone. You don't know who they were, where they come from. And, you know, there's I think a phrase in, perhaps it's the Christian Bible, I'm not religious, but it speaks how people have often entertained angelics, angels, and been unaware of it. So I think it's the same type of a situation. And concerning these charters real quick, like Alex there, I can't say anything that made him not human. Like I would say, hey, are you from Pleiades or some stuff like that? But they feel these charters feel like people from the future. Like in 2,000 or 3,000 years, if we don't destroy ourselves before we change to another type of container, like plasma or whatever it's going to be, different types of containers for our consciousness, like those eggs on board the craft I was talking about, and the lights inside, different shapes and configurations and forms for our consciousness. All right, what are humans going to be like just before we make that change? That's what they feel like to me. Okay, and that's just food for thought for everybody on the charters and stringing that together with another thing. I just thought that'd be interesting. Okay, so I'm about to wrap it up soon, but this is so cool. Similar experience in the void, the most incredible, overwhelming, beautiful compassion. No human words come out. In the void, was that in space? Was the space void? Was it perhaps even the Akashic records? Were you close to that? Because when you start going, you talk about void, to me, that kind of screams Akashic records. And I had mentioned before how the Akashic records are actually the hard drives of the universe, how they are the Makos, okay? And the Mako, the black holes, magnetically, eternally collapsing objects. Sorry, y'all hear me talk about this all the time. When something goes through, it makes the perfect copy on the surface, okay? And that surface actually becomes part of the Mako. The Mako is actually the mechanism that stores the memory, okay, of the quantum hologram, what that call going through. And that quantum hologram and that Mako, that information wraps around the Mako. The out part is the beginning of the universe. All the way to the inner part is going to be present beyond space-time. So when dealing with the Akashic records and people say, oh, I work the Akashic records. These Makos actually operate in spherical and helical. They operate by conscious waves, quantum conscious waves, I've heard them called too. And they occur spherical and helical, okay? And for us as humans, we have in our bodies these things called microtubules. And for what I'm talking about here, we'll kind of conform it, constrict it to the brain microtubules, which also conforms, which makes up not just the neuron network, but the mirror neuron network. And that's what I'm telling you this right now. A lot of you are seeing it and can imagine it, okay? And that's got a connection to the monkey grab, hold reflex deal also, okay? So, but by the same token, that's a mirror neuron network, and that functions a lot like this quantum hologram that I've talked about. And the microtubules of the brain and our bodies occur, they're spherical, okay? So that means spiritually through brain waves, you can access the Makos, the Akashic records. And by the same token, those species and those civilizations that are type 3, type 4, that are actually not just using this parent star as their main power source, which we haven't even got to that yet. Okay, we're still type 0. And then they start using space itself as the main power source. Then they begin using the Mako itself as a power source. Okay, that's when you start dealing with that. And some of those civilizations may no longer exist third dimension or physically at all, but they still exist within the quantum hologram, within the Mako, within the Akashic records. And we can access that through our brains. And that's why it's so important, folks, when we deal with the contact experience and you've got beings that might be higher beings like that, trying to contact you through your brain waves, but your brain is so damn entrained, brain entrainment with negative encounter, SSP, all that type of stuff, reptilians, cloning. And I'm not saying all that doesn't exist, a very real problem. And my heart goes out to those people that have experienced that, but that's not the majority. The majority are people like me. But when you get that type of brain entrainment, our force of will, our free will, and our is strong, can actually turn that experience from these beings on a higher level into a type of negative thing, like an abduction type thing. We do have that ability, to make images, especially for you, those of you that can switch dreams. You advanced dreamers like that. That's a gift that few of us have. You can switch dreams like that. The next step for you is actually molding your dream body into almost appearing physical and tricking people. When you're at that level, you passed all those gates of dreaming. Anyway, so yeah, I definitely didn't want to share, man. The odd thing is that demon. I'll just say it as it is. That demon that got me to come forward, along with Bill Spicer. All right, I had done my sixth professional regression, and the reason why I became a hypnotist and learned hypnosis is so I could hypnotize myself to retrieve all the missing time. I'm missing like 20 hours of time in my life behind these encounters. Okay, 4 different experiences. And then I couldn't hypnotize myself. I could do other people just like that, but I couldn't do it for myself. I'd actually go and let somebody else do me that I built a rapport with. Now, on like the 4th or 6th regression, these beings began talking about my daughter. I have, I hear about these hybrid children. I don't talk about this part of my experience because it would expose somebody else, all right, that was with me during some of these experiences. But I have a deal where I've got a daughter there, and I didn't know it till after my accident. She contacted me, and a type of telepathy that was stronger than Sasquatch. It was really a trip, and it blew me away. All right, so that anyway, so things like that I never really discuss, all right, and go into. I'm sorry, I was looking at something Mitch was saying and somebody was saying, and I lost track of what I was talking about. Giving it to anyway, that I was against, oh, sorry, hypnosis. I was against hypnosis for that reason until finally I learned it myself. So I think I tried it myself and I couldn't. I had to go and let somebody else do me. And then during this regression, the being started talking to me, through me to the hypnotist. And look, I don't do channeling. I'm medium, all that, but I don't channel. I don't give my body to that. No. But unless it's the highest of the Christ type conscious beings, and that's what this was. They're talking to the hypnotist, saying that, about my daughter, and said, and she's asking, did that happen during this experience? And they're saying, oh no, he was brought back several times to watch the gestation period, but that was only a fraction of the time that you're associated with. And it was really hard for me to accept that these beings were speaking through me, to be quite honest with you. Tripped me the F out. And I got online and just typed, I was doing my stocks at night. I was still doing options back then. I got on to type in, I got on YouTube, just typed in like extraterrestrial regression. And this gentleman comes up, this Australian bastard that had just put it up like maybe 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes. And I watched it, and Mary Rodwell had done the regression with him. And I know I was familiar with her work. And definitely after my accident, she talks about people who get moved out of an accident. Definitely after my accident, she talks about people who get moved out of an accident right at the point of impact, and they're put back, and such people heal in a way they shouldn't and don't have the injuries they should. I'm one of those individuals. So I just paid attention to her. I think she said that on My Mom Sees Aliens or something like that, that documentary. Anyway, she'd done the regression of this individual, and they posted it because on YouTube, because they couldn't take it because the entity, the star beings were talking through them to Mary. So I sent him a message on Twitter. It was Twitter back then. Oh, what is it now? X. But it was Vin Diesel is XXX or whatever. But anyway, it was on Twitter. We started communicating on Twitter, and quite frequently. And then he asked me to be a member, be on his first show. He started a show, and I said, "Hell to the no." Not just did I just recovered from 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries. And the last thing I need to do is tell people, oh, by the way, I've been seeing extraterrestrials since I was a kid. That's not going to go over good. And I avoided that cat for several months. He kept hitting me over again. Be on my show. Be on my show. He started, no. And then my brother, Mitch, and Reggie had said, actually, Mitch had told Reggie, and Reggie says one day we was hanging, Reggie said, man, Mitch said there's this Australian dude who wants to interview you and you won't do it. And I said, hell no, I ain't gonna do that, man. And he looks at me saying, man, we think maybe you should. And the day I did that first interview, that shocked me to hear. My brothers, they guide me. They're much older than me. Much, much older. Like way older. Anyway, no. But they do guide me, okay? And that was advice that just shocked me. And before my mother had died, maybe a week or two before, I went to check on her one day, and they put her head up, and she's like, boy, they were sure wrong about you. So what are you talking about? She said, all those doctors and medical professionals, they said you would be a lifetime vegetable devoid of especially long-term lifetime memories. And they said, just kind of accept the new you. You weren't going to be the same person. She said, but you are still you. And that creepy Star Trek memory of yours. And she's like, and I was really dealing with depression during the TBI thing. That's one thing that definitely hit me. And I was doing bad that day. And she looks at me, she said, you're still the way you are because you're supposed to do something. I was like, well, what? I've lost everything. They say I can't function. I can't think anymore. What am I supposed to do? And she looked back up at me. She goes, I don't know, but it's important. I think it's really important. And she was serious, So that first interview, Bill and this demon dude tricked me to being, I went over there getting the cookies off my computer so I could start Skyping. And we start talking. It's supposed to be a round table is what the demon called it. He starts pushing buttons and put up microphones. What the hell are you doing, man? He said, well, we're doing a show, bro. Do a show, bro. I said, hey, I didn't agree to that. And I look over at Bill, and he's looking at me like a deer in headlights. I said, what is this, man? And he said, well, man, we just did this because this is all about you. But if we didn't kind of set you up like this, we just know you wouldn't do it. And I sat up, I started grabbing my computer. I said, I'm not doing it now, man. I don't like being tricked. And then I thought about what my mother said, and I thought about what Mitch and Reggie said. And I sat back down and did that interview. Very, very uncomfortable. You could tell I'm going like that. That's a sign of gesture clusters of nervousness. But would it not be for Mitch in the chat, my brother and my mother, I would never have come forward. And it's not a coincidence that I go for the first time to speak at a conference at Seti Ranch in 2016. And I get there, I'm there not even an hour, and I get called to the office, and they asked me, I was supposed to be on a panel with this demon, his wife at the time, Soretta, and that gentleman that runs that place. I was supposed to be on this panel with them, and I wanted to meet these cats from Australia. So I went. And it was not stressful enough that I spoke publicly all the time before my accident, but not about this stuff. And I got my old man who's in his 90s telling me, oh, son, I'll never see you again. You're going to go up in the mountains and those Caucasian people are going to let you. So that made it more stress. But I got asked to speak first because this lady, Cassandra Dunn, left the ranch. And she said, will you go first? And I just said, yeah, sure. And the other side of me is going, no, but it was too late. I just said it. And I had all these pictures that you just see because I was trying to write a book that I don't have the patience to write. And I just brought them with me. Mitch was with me when we put my PDF together with PC. And I took all those pictures. He put them all on there. Maybe you'll need them. So I just talked about that. And that led me to still being on the circuit talking and things like that now. So that's kind of how spirit works that out. All right. I just thought I'd bring that up because some people have asked me how I wind up coming forward. I never wanted to come forward. I fought it. I fought doing a YouTube channel, especially, and I do PC who doesn't even live here anymore, started filming me. We're just sitting up there talking a couple of times. And he gave it to me. He said, you should start a YouTube channel. I was like, hell no, man. But he talked me into it. And then after we started stabilizing, when the videos got a little more advanced, I started kind of enjoying them a little bit. So I said I was supposed to get the information out. So that's that. And that leads me to talking to you all right now. Anyway. However, after healing from trauma, the energy space can be clear for purposes to become clear. Yeah, but the problem is the negative identities actually are so buried in the subconscious. There's only certain ways to get to them. It's very difficult to get to negative identities. Okay, that's one thing that's not easy. You can't just do a straight clearing. Like for advanced, for per se, like some of the techniques I will use to dissolve negative identities in a client, I can't use on myself. I can't use it on myself because the negative identities have self-preservation. The free will is giving them that. And the self-preservation comes in the form of our own thoughts, our own mind. I told you they gave us their mind. And so that way it shields itself through self-preservation. Just a little hint there. That's one reason. So it's not always so easy as just clearing after trauma. Sometimes it's hard to get those negative identities. I don't know what you're talking in there, bro, because I can't see all the chat. It's flying through so much. I can't tell what all you're saying, but thanks for coming in and sharing with people. My brother Reggie has had some experiences that are different than mine. They're star being related. He's a musician, and I've kind of addressed him through a music type of way. I will say this. He had an experience that when probably about 1995 that he come calling me up on my old answering machine. We still had those. I come home late at night. I've been out partying. And he's left it, oh, bro, give me a call. And when I call him, I said, what's wrong? He said, man, I had this experience where I'm walking around with you. And we're going to these weird places. He said, this was like real. I'm walking around with you. We're going to these weird places. And suddenly we're on top of this roof and we start like taking off or something. And you're standing on top of this and there are other people with us. They're looking at you saying, how's he standing up here? He's crazy. He said, then we walk down to this other place and suddenly I'm seeing all these ships. And they're coming up, they're sparkling, they're moving. And I look at you, I said, I understand now. Now I know what's going on. And you looked at me, you went like this. He said, he started crying again. He said, man, this car just came over and barreled you over, man, out of nowhere. It barreled you over in the middle of the street and you were just dead, laying there dead. I'll never forget it. Forwarded, 20 some years. And he remembers when I'm laying there in a coma for 2.5 weeks, trying to recover from these brain injuries. All right. And that's the way I looked on the street. He remembered it. I reminded him like sometime later, so you remember you were singing, you were showed that. You start crying on me then. So these are ways that these, contact experiences, these things can run in our family lines and all sorts of stuff. So anyway. Yeah, Stephen Wolf, yeah, they will come. Yeah, I have close connections with my deceased brother and sister and parents. Thank you for saying that, Stephen Wolf, because that's important because, when people don't listen to these fools and do go into the light when they pass, they change. They go through the change. I can tell you what all they are, what time frame it is, but then they have the ability to come back. Well, I can tell you this, okay? I had a client recently, a few weeks ago, and they had several earthbound spirits attached to them, and they were mostly family members that didn't want to leave and knew that this individual had gifts attached to them. Okay. And what's weird is when I crossed the first one, a little bit stubborn, and then by the time I got to the third one, they're telling me when they're starting to go into the light, they're telling me they're seeing the other one that was in the body with them, hiding in the body with them, and they got a body over there. It's that light stuff. Everybody got a body. That's quick. Sometimes you start seeing them have forming an energy body, before they even fully all their energy's gone out of the client into the vortex, into the light. See, that's the stuff that happened. When you say that, you've got loved ones that can come back and communicate and leave. They're not stuck here. They're not earthbound. It's a different thing going on. And I'll tell you, these people, I don't want to start getting emotional here because y'all know I get fired up on this. I've had just recently more earthbounds telling me, I didn't go. I asked them, why did you go in the light when you died? Well, I thought it was a trick. Last one I did with that, I said, well, why'd you think that? Because that's what my church told us. My church always says that. Now, it didn't take me very much. You didn't need a psychic or a medium or a genius to figure out they're talking about a satanic church. See, and things like that. And in the generational curses we carry with us, all this crap. We don't need any additional darkness thrown at us. And, I've had others tell me, I was told by somebody the light was a trick. And I've hurt people. So I figured I might go in there and burn. They're trying to trick me to go in there. Stuff like that. As far as I can tell, that's not what happens either. Okay. I can't speak in total absolutes, but I can say to not go into that light and whatever these people are saying is a bad technique. The light comes, even if you're hearing sounds, light comes with the sound. It's not always a golden light. It's not always a white light. I've heard all different types of light that people go into at the end. They tell me all different types. And a lot of times I think it has a lot to do with the soul group. Most of you in this group right now are blue soul group. That's why you resonate with me. You're blue soul group. And the soul groups are a lot like our nanospectrum, Roy G. Biv. The red, orange, yellows are like your, I don't want to say younger, but more immature souls, while your indigo violets are the most experienced or most experienced, most mature, maybe however you want to say it. But that's kind of goes. And then once you go through violet, you actually can go back to the nanospectrum, the soul group that you're most comfortable with. Like for me, it's blue. I like blue, the blues, but I didn't know why I was seeing these blue stuff on ship, blue streaks. It didn't get it. I had to get older. Is the demon Asi M. Sala? I don't know who that is. If you want to go to I'm trying not to just be a person that slings a bunch of mud in the community because I see people that do that. I try not to do that, but I just try to warn people because some of these people are not good people and they're demonic to a degree. That individual, go back if you go to my YouTube channel, check out interviews, the playlist interviews. Look at the first ones I did. They'll be the oldest ones, okay, time-wise. And I was probably on that individual's show 10 times. One time was with Mary Rodwell. So and everything, all that individual shows, they had a bunch of well-known people on there, a bunch of knowledge. That show helped a bunch of people, but because they screw people over, they have to erase all memories of people. So that show's just gone. The only place you'll see it is on my show, on my channel. And, because it's my right. And Soretta had said that. She said, I commend you for even keeping those on there. It helped people. So I'm not going to take it off, and that's sliding people. So anyway, so that's one individual. In fact, look at the people that I was on their shows multiple times outside of Jessica. You'll see those are all people I don't work with anymore. And they're all people that have literally probably 80 plus subscribers. One of them was going live when Jessica was. They were both going live at the same time. So I'm watching them on both things here. Jessica's got up to like 100, I think, at the end, which is cool. This other individual was at like 2,000. And they started off with like 9 something. I'm going to wait till I get 1,500 before I even start. What? Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, much love to everybody. I'm probably going to get out of here. I heard allegation. I heard the white light is a reincarnation trap. Let me guess, okay? I'm glad you brought that up because I've slammed the heck out of that. First of all, where did you hear that? From who? And what data do they have to support it? I bet that you probably heard it from Farsight. Look, if you can't feel, when looking at Okay, how can I say this? To think that when we have demonic forces that know our own religions and have given us their minds, like, for example, when you have some of these earthbound spirits that tell me I've been tormenting this person because there's others here that are making me do it. They say, if I don't, I'm going to pay. And they're going to jump me and they're going to take me to the pit. And it's way worse than this. What's the pit? I don't know, but they say it's blacker than here. And it's always dark here. And, so that's one thing there. And then, so the pit is the concept of hell. They know that. They know how to deceive us. They may have given us some of these concepts of heaven and hell. So to think that you don't have negative inorganic beings, demonics, that are looking for remote viewers that are trying to look into this and the death process and the truth, to think that they can't be influenced is lunacy. Okay. And I've met some of those individuals. Okay. And they got dark spirit on them. They got like dark energy on them, like they're Sith or something. Okay, and I say that because, the first people that come tell me, oh, Barry, I don't have anything on me. I've done my shadow work. And I get those people in we go through the process and they have work. And I get those people in we go through the process and they have multiple earthbound spirits on them. And at the end, they're looking at me going, oh, I can't believe it. That was real. Yeah, it was real. It's your body and your spirit, your consciousness. See, but that stuff they're doing doesn't work. A lot of them, they don't really know how to protect themselves. So to think those people that are telling you that don't go into the white light, it's a reincarnation trap. What proof do they have? First of all, have they had a near-death experience themselves? Okay. Number two, are they a medium? Every medium is a psychic, but every psychic is not a medium. They're different gifts. All right. Number three, have they dealt with an earthbound population inside or outside the energy field? Number three, where did they send these people? Where do they go? What advice do they give? Don't give me the one that individual that runs that ranch gave me, that's got a weak personality, weak personal energy as far as like personal power. I get around people, I can feel it. And you can feel me. Those of y'all that have met me, I'm everything I say I am. I'm not a guru. I'm not a psych, or not a teacher. None of that stuff. I'm just a contactee. All right. But I'll tell you, I'm not going to be pushed over and run over. And I've got presence. And what I say is truth. All right. And some of these people don't. They don't have Artron energy. They don't have any of that. But that individual told me, when they're not trying to be a pervert, molesting every woman on that property, they're telling me, I saw the light and I just went around that. And then I went forward and I was sailing and I was going through the galaxies and yeah, right. I feel your personal power and see little primitive parlor tricks you're doing with people. And you expect me to believe that you can manipulate the dream body and everything like that, and the energy body like that. And you have full cognitive ability on the other side like that. That's crap. I don't believe it. Sorry, I just don't. All right, that's my right. And, I had an individual at the Vegas conference. They say that crap right there. I didn't know why they avoided me. I don't like them anyway. I shouldn't say that. I like their energy. And they avoid me and I don't talk to them. But I wondered why they avoid me. Now I know why. They're telling people that crap. They claim to have an NDE, but then they're saying, Jesus and Jacob were arguing over me because I'm the miracle person. And okay, yeah, that's great, man. That's nobody can just be normal people, right? So my friend, when dealing with the white light, like I mentioned, there are all sorts of different lights I've crossed people over into. There's never any one type. It's not consistent. That's something we're being trained in. All right. So that's, just food for word there. And I'm not on you person that said that. I'm not on you about it, but I'm just letting you know where I come in at that. All right. And those people, when they meet my three criteria, and I just mentioned, they're a medium, they've had an NDE, and they've worked with a base of earthbound spirits, whether it's outside the energy field or inside the energy field. Do they even know about that? They even talk about that. And when I say that, the ones inside the energy field are so entwined in organs and the energy field, the biofield itself, and they only express themselves as negative behaviors. And normally the place they inhabit or the negative behaviors they give the person are the ones that stop them from crossing over. So, and it ruins the client's life, and it ruins the earthbound spirit life. That's why that's so important. People are saying that. go into light, don't do this and that. That's important, you know, and they're not giving you a technique. I offered a technique on Jessica's show that's called the recapitulation, the recap. Did a video on that too. And what that is, what the Toltecs used and the ancients were using to actually manipulate the dream body itself to make it so concise that at the point of death, they turn into inorganic beings of multiple speed and feats of awareness. Okay. That's the, you know, one of those things there. So I think, you know, and the recap, what the recap is actually going through every moment of your life, every experience, not just the trauma, every experience, and bringing back the energy that you've left in others and in those situations. And that becomes free energy with you that starts becoming personal power. And when I say personal power, that's how we begin to actually, we can intent our force of will. And that's what keeps the dark forces off of us. That's what makes us actually creators. As parts of the creator, as said, we're made in God's image. That means the creative principle flows through us. We are creators. That means we have imagination, great imagination, to intent will. However the cosmos started, the Big Bang, whatever way you want to use it, as one single omnipotent, omnipresent entity, the creator, did it in two ways. One would be loneliness, and two would be imagination. Look at all this stuff. Look at the cosmos, the universes, the stuff in our bodies. Man, that's imagination. I appreciate all y'all. Wow. Thanks, Stevens. Appreciate that. Chronic. See, Colleen, Steve, was that your husband? I'm sorry. Allergy. Wait till you meet Courtney Brown. He's a weak energy body. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't care about Courtney Brown, all right, and I don't care about his energy. What he's one of the people that's pushing that false, not going to the light. It's a false. I'm sorry, he had a bad experience. Does he know how to protect himself? Just saying is what it is. I'm sorry. I owe no allegiance to anybody, okay? Him included. The only thing I will say this. Hey, yo, I dig it that he puts those sisters in the cat suits to remote view. I was watching too, just to see the cat suits. So, hey, yeah. And I don't want to just say I'm not putting the far side down completely, but that crap they're saying there is BS. And I'm challenging that they are being coerced. Those remote viewers are being coerced that are seeing that. They're seeing that. And to back that up, I gave Jessica Jones the light as a blind target. She has no idea what she's looking at. We did a show on that. How come she wasn't seeing this great soul trap like they were? How come she wasn't seeing all these things that they're seeing, these negative things? She's seeing the expansion of the cosmos, expansion, infinity. She kept seeing infinity in things. See, these are things that need to come forward. So what I'm saying is that what they're saying is not supported. And I want to see the data. I want to know where they're taking people to, sending people to, that's beyond the recapitulation that I just told you. Okay, and dealing with the recap, which is bringing every part of energy from the people and the situations back, and it's done in a technique that is left to right, right to left, breathing pranayama, kriya type breaths. Okay, and that's part how that's done. And what that does is that recap creates like a shield of a copy of your life. And then when you die and go quote unquote to this reincarnation cycle, as that was just called, okay, which is actually what Ray Hernandez and his team calls the mind of God, and what Carlos Castaneda calls the eagle, or the deep sea of awareness, the dark deep sea of awareness, but the eagle. And the eagles was described to Don Juan to him, which is when you go, the cosmos is shaped like an eagle. You go through the beak of the eagle when you die, and it erases your soul, your life memories. It takes your life memories. When you look at what Ray Hernandez and them are saying through the survey and through these academics, okay, they're saying that it goes into philosophy also. And that when you go back to the mind of God, this repository, when you die, it takes your life memories. and then you go reincarnate. When I talk about these past life regressions I've done, many of them now, different types, specifically the life between life regression, all right? When doing that, there's this place, I'm repeating a lot what I said so people just get an idea. There's this place that is called, I call the place of translation and reconfiguration, all right? And what that is this place where the guide automatically comes without me suggesting it. The guide just comes during the process and takes them to this place. It can be a library, it could be a nature spot, it can have these ledgers, or it could be water, and there's like these things coming out of the water, your different life experiences that shows your choices and the intent behind them and the way you affected others. Okay, that place of translation and reconfiguration, I wondered sometimes, is it also the same place that is partially the mind of God and the beak of the eagle? Because the people always choose whether they're going to reincarnate after that. All right, and I've asked, are you being forced? No. The look on their face is like I'm being stupid to even ask that. Are you being forced? Is the light making you reincarnate? No. Is your guide making you to reincarnate? No. It's my choice. And I've talked about ones that have been the choices of different universe to incarnate in. Okay? Not all past lives I do. When I do a past life regress, the person, I'll take them to the life they had before this one. We'll go through that. It's not always on Earth. It's been on other planets, other places, all sorts of stuff I've found. So that's, again, it's just food for thought on that. All right. It's more than food for thought. It's a little bit fact. All right. And certain things we can expect. Like for me, when I crossed over, as far as I went, I saw these super nanofilm I've described. That book that you read, the book here, calls them super nanofilm, SUPERNAPHIM. Midway through that book, it's a type of archangel that is different, but that level. Okay, I saw beings like that, and I know they're the ones that helped save my life too. Okay, and that is. Sorry. Rocky Mountain Skywatcher. My experience is being 8th dimension and above are formless. 7th is pure energy. Now, here's my problem. How do you know what dimension that is? What the 7th is? What the 8th is? How do we really know what that is? Is it what beings are saying to you? And I say that to you because I've had the ones I dealt with told me they come from the 16th dimension and upwards. And looking at like physics right now, there's not supposed to be that many dimensions, they're saying, only maybe in bubble theory. So that's just why I get kind of questioning that a little bit, because right now, when dealing with just Earth, okay, when dealing with just planet Earth, this is a twin world. Just like we're twins, we have the energy body, dream body, the physical body. The Earth as a twin world. You have the part of the world, you have the world we're in that are organisms, awareness with organism, okay? Almost everything here is like that. Then you've got our twin world that is awareness without organism, perception without organism. Thus, they're called inorganic beings sometimes and other things. But that world is right here with us. It's just a frequency or two off. And sometimes they meld and blend, and you get these micro wormholes, you get these little fissures, like time fissures. These things come through. You got these fools detonating atomic bombs that work on the hydrogen molecule, which rips through dimensions. You know, we've heard that you detonate a bomb here, it tears through so many dimensions. Well, how many Foo Fighters and warriors and scientists are you going to send to investigate? If you come from like a utopia, your dimensions of utopia, and all of a sudden, boom, all Australia, all Europe blows up, and y'all are at peace. What? And there's a rip, there's a tear, all sorts of things start coming through. I don't know that they know how to seal these tears, and that things don't come through on this earth that should not be here, aka pale crawlers. A lot of people are into that right now, aka some of these horrible aquatic beings we're seeing, some types. You know, you got dementia, you have micro wormholes in the ocean and in the lakes as well. So, you know, it's just stuff to begin to think about. Atma Ra, yes, my NDA, the spectrum lights work tangible with different tones and frequencies. Yeah, exactly. See, that's somebody that's experienced it. It's not just Barry talking. Dr. Greer says there's infinite dimensions. Boy, his name comes up so much. People hold him like a guru. I've never met Dr. Greer. Honestly, don't care for. Let's being honest. I mean, the whole thing with the baby alien stuff and the thing of saying there are no negative encounters or whatever. He said some things I just have problems with. Okay, I know he's got a great academic deal. That's cool, but I don't resonate with everybody on these platforms, especially when he's given credit for CE5 when I know that CE5 was created by. It wasn't called that, but that was created by Preston Dennett. I think Preston Dennett and Costas Marquet, if you know who he is. Kind of looks like I think Don Juan must have looked like Costas Marquet. He does the whole thing with the worldwide communication right now. Those are people that made CE5. It wasn't Greer. And I watched these people in this community, that guy that run that ranch, and the last time I was out there, 2019, he had just come back from contact in the desert. Another one never been through. And apparently, this is a point where these people on these platforms are using CE5 to kind of judge what kind of contactee you are. If you're a hardcore contactee or not, you should be able to call in a bunch of ships. And you had an individual out there that ran that ranch. He said, "Oh, when I did mine, at first they were upset because they said Greer said something to them when they're on stage, mock them." So they're out to do it. And when they go to do CE5, he does his, and 34 ships showed up. But when Greer does his, nothing. They call Greer out to clear the skies. And that time out there, I had to actually do a sky watch, maybe the time before. I'd never done one. Wasn't really into them. But, when you lose a lot of time with those ships come up on you, it's not really that fun. You got to be careful and know who and what you're dealing with on those ships. Anyway. So yeah. So sorry, this is my platform here. I'm being just somewhat just provocative. I get so tired of these main platform people with these big names, such and such, and they're just full of crap. A lot of them, man, and not all of them. Some of them are badass. A couple of them. I'll be happy to tell you who they are when y'all mention them. The ones that really had made a big impact on me that I thought were really good people. So. Sadly, it's few and far between, but there are some. But it's the attendees and the people in these circles, these chats. Those are the good people. Those are the real people. Those are people with the experiences. Those are the people with the knowledge and the people that aren't getting heard that need to make this tapestry, to make everything go forward. 0 Point Energy 33333. Hey brother, what's the most useful experience you've had remote viewing for your understanding of our reality, what's happening here now? I'm not a remote viewer. That's Jessica's thing. I can do like astral sight, like a lot of people do, astral sight thing, but that's not remote viewing really. So I don't claim to be a remote viewer or do that. I went through a workshop in Cocoa Beach presented by one of those far sight remote viewers. It was a good workshop. I nailed the targets too, but that's the only one I've done concerning that. It was just, I think, coordinate remote viewing. I don't think it was the other stuff they do. And it was just a 2-hour deal. So I'm not a remote viewer. So, and I kind of like keeping it that way with Jessica because it gives me a different perspective and her a different one too. Just kind of like she's never done a session with me yet. It's probably coming. So, it's just certain things we've not crossed boundaries, and it's just cool because it keeps a good working relationship. And she's super cool. And I've done more work with her now than any of those other people. And she's still doing it for fun. She's not like that guy from Australia. She's not like that woman. Those 2 women I've mentioned, they're not mentioned by name, but she's not like any of them. And I respect that. And she's really growing and getting a big audience. I want to see her blow up. I want to see her blow up bigger than any of those people I've worked with. I want to see her sitting with 100,000 subscribers. I think it'd be super cool, and I think she deserves it. Anyway, Preston Dennett, Scarlet Fire. Man, Scarlett, he really helped me in terms of when I was in just after high school, his college years, about 96, 95. He wrote that book. I have a copy of it in here. UFO Healings. That helped me more than almost any book I'd seen because I was having experiences like that. They were positive. He was the only person talking about positive contact. I started looking at the pictures in there. I was like, man, one day if I ever write a book, I'm going to get this lady Cassara to do my artwork. And that's kind of what happened years and years later. But yeah, Preston's really cool. One night, Christine did it. That's just the artist that did all my art and everybody's art. She's that's his sister-in-law, and she hooked me up with Preston. We talked on the phone for about 2 hours. Actually, let me rephrase that. I talked and he listened. Very patient guy. You know, I just want to thank him for all his work. He does that show too. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen too many of them, but the ones I've seen are pretty good. And I'm glad to see him starting to get the credit that he deserves. That guy's written a crap load of books, man. A lot more than what I've read. I only read a couple of them. I've got Schoolyard Encounters. That's really good. UFO Healings, and he's got 2 UFO healing books. I should have brought the other one in here. Anyway, and he's done a lot more books than that. So really, really good stuff. Sean Davis. I got 2 friends named Sean Davis. I wonder if you were one of them for a while. I don't think so, but I don't think it's Sean that I know, but cool name. Yes, they're full of crap for the most part. Good call, Barry. And, you know, I don't want to sound like this big, what do they call him, downer guy, but it's true, man, that, you know, the demon that I've talked about on this show here during the first conference I did, he says, I got to tell you, during the panel we were on, the last one, he says, I got to tell you that 90% of the people in the UFO field you meet are full of bullshit. That's what he said. And I started clapping and a bunch of people stood up. It's kind of a trip. I had no idea that individual was looking in the mirror and talking about thyself. Anyway, that's what narcissists do. I dislike rat food. I dislike the charges so much for something a group of people can organize for free on a weekend. Sometimes, I mean, I agree to a degree. I mean, I think here's what I think. I think that the venues used for the conferences are way too expensive, and that makes the conferences themselves way too expensive. But if they were much more, you know, reasonable fee where normal people could go, that would be much more enjoyable. So I don't disagree with that. Agreed. He's cashing in for sure. I can imagine who you're talking about there. Working on reading Chris Bloodshow's UFOs of God. You know, my friend Ray Hernandez. Ray Hernandez, I'm Barry. Chris Bloodshow, one of the biggest experiences of all time. He really stands behind Chris Bloodshow. I'm not super familiar with all his work, but everything I've seen is pretty interesting. I think he was a military guy, you know, seemed like pretty good whistleblower, excuse me. Allie McCallie, Teal Swan. You want to know what I think about Teal Swan? Never met her, have had no interactions with her. Get the same energy off her I get off of another individual in these communities that has just risen to the top of the contactee thing, and they cause a lot of there's a lot of seems like argument around them too. All right. And I had an individual telling me when I was in North Carolina a couple months ago in Asheville, just outside Asheville, and all that stuff's washed out now. My heart goes out to all those people, good people there I met, and it's a shame. But the individual that I hung out with there, one of the well-known super soldiers in this community, told me, "You should bow to such and such." I bowed to them because they're a princess in another place. Okay, buddy. But these again are people that avoid me. Okay, so I don't know, and you know, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. All right, but I'm not here to be liked, especially. I'm not here to hurt people either. I'm just here to try to spread truth because humanity is in trouble, and our stewardship of this planet is in trouble, and we need all the help we can get right now. So, anyway. But as far as bowing to somebody who's famous in these circles, that is giving a bunch of recycled information that really you can go get from a bunch of different new age books. If you read them going back a couple of decades, you can start stringing all that stuff together and put together a great story. Okay. I could do that to a degree. I could start saying a bunch of things that aren't even real that will pull people along. You know, for example, like when I worked at the bowling alley, I messed up and stabbed this pencil. I one of the people that I put a pencil through my hand on accident, and it broke a piece of lead off in my hand. I'm part of that group that they call the people that have lead in their hands. It's somewhat common, I guess, more than you think. But I'll tell you, it looks like, you can see it. It looks like, say, oh, look, tell people it's an implant. I could do like that. It looks like it moves a little. See how it moves? People, oh my God, that's total farce. It's not true at all. See what I'm saying? But stuff like that sells. And watch these people that run out of material, information, like the individual I'm talking about, acted like a guru. They ran out of information a long time ago. And they're starting to make up contact scenarios also. This individual stabbed me in the back like no other, but is defending someone like Stan Romanek, a convicted child molester or something. What? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's stuff like that that's just crap. And I feel sorry for the people that aren't getting the information that they need. And I'm glad for you people in the chat. Please keep talking. Please keep spreading the word. Much love to all of you. I'm probably going to wrap this up here. I've been taken by ET from 17, divine angel wisdom. I'm curious, were they positive contacts or negative contacts? Yeah, what's up, bro? Yeah, I hope you all heard the message on demons. They're everywhere. Be careful. Most are easy to identify around. You know, I'll tell you something else. I mentioned this before. I don't want to repeat it, but you know, they attack us in a way. Not just they give their minds and that stuff, but when they attack us, for people like in this group here and myself, we know how to shield ourselves and protect ourselves. They create these circumstances that will flare our emotions. They like, if this is the Enterprise with a piece of crystal, this is the Enterprise, but you got, 5 of these Klingon ships around them, all firing down, trying to collapse the shields. And the way the negatives do that is they cause problems with your spouse. Okay, cause problems with the petty tyrant you have at work that's always getting in the way, trying to make it to middle management. They're making things hell over there. Okay, you got the petty tyrant. That's another problem. Then they'll start messing with your house. They'll start messing up the plumbing. Then they'll go over to your garage, get into your car, start messing with the liquids in your car, mess up your transmission, and all these things that just stress you the F out, okay? And what they're doing is like all those Klingon ships firing down on the Enterprise. But what it does, instead of total collapse, so you know how to shield ourselves, it creates these little cracks. And what they do is just enough for them to seep in, and then they go for the heart chakra immediately and start attacking you through the people you know and love and you associate with. That's why when you go to sleep at night, you've got 2 different classifications of inorganic beings. One of them they used to call more allies because they show up as foreign objects in the dream. Okay, and I've talked to people about the dream I had when I had this Ming Voss on my glass table in my little apartment back in the day, and I'm so proud of cleaning up my apartment. This Ming Voss is in there. I was like, man, I'm so proud. It's so clean. I started thinking, man, that's worth millions of dollars, and I don't have no security on this place or anything. What? Finally started realizing I was in a dream, that Ming Voss was a foreign object. And when I started doing a gaze on it, it turned into an orange energy ball and went in the wall. See, but I'm not a trained dreamer to follow that inorganic being through the wall, through the realms it's going through. And that's dangerous. You get trapped too. So, but I'm not a skilled dreamer in that way. So anyway, but that's just one type of inorganic being that shows up in our dreams. The others, the more hostile ones, they show up as people you love, and they start attacking you in the dream. So your dad shows up there, he's cussing you the hell out. And why? You ain't done nothing. It's them a lot. And I mentioned before, for those of you that can actually shift dreams and have that type of dream control through dream attention, meaning you have as much attention there as you do here. Okay, you have full cognitive totality of yourself. All right, for those people that could do that, could actually change their dreams and things like that. It's a whole another escape for solidifying the dream body itself and for awareness. All right, sorry, I kind of forgot what I was talking about there. I didn't mean to spend that on here too long. But anyway, it was solidifying the dream body was connected to that anyway, and kind of making that where you have your awareness there also. So it's people that can do that when you, okay, that's what I was talking about. Sorry, when you can do that, and actually the next step after manipulating your dreams and changing them is actually you can realize that you're actually an electron impulse full of phantasmagorical images. And once you do away with those and see the void, as somebody said earlier, you see the void, it becomes an issue of how many energy generating beings are in your field of awareness. Those inorganic beings, they're around us all the time. You know, I had mentioned, seeing those shadows in that dark room. That tripped me out. I wasn't quite ready for that one, but I mean, the protections, more protections, but they're around us all the time, and that takes us into those voices like Jerry Marinsky's talking about. I had a deal I talked about a few weeks ago. I had a video on voices. This young man that's almost 40 now, that I used to work with when he was a young kid, came up to me at Wendy's. I was trying to get a Baconator. I know it shouldn't be eating it, but it tasted good, man. But anyway, he approaches me on the line. He's like, man, I wanted to say thank you, man. I've always wanted to see you again. He's like, man, you helped, you one person that believed me. You helped me with the voices. I was like, that's right. So you have voices, didn't you? He said, yeah, man. You're the only person said I wasn't crazy. And I remember that spurred me back then to start talking. This is a juvenile residential psychiatric. And I would talk to a lot of the kids. They said that they heard voices. I just asked them, what do they tell you? They tell you they want to talk to people. They said, they told me to stop taking the meds, that you are poisoning me and the doctors are poisoning me, and the side effects I'm feeling are proof of it. And little things like that. And it was always these negative things, this negative stuff. There's always, and so I suspected there were always these flyers and these negative inorganic beings putting their mind into ours, their voice, speaking through our voice. It's always through our voice they use. That's what I mean. They gave us their mind. So in that way, that's it's a trip, man. So it's something to be very, very, very aware of, But anyway, so that's just something to be protective of. But in the dreamscape, those inorganic beings can really use those phantasmagorical images. I know some people are getting mad at me, okay, but look, we've got to keep it real. These inorganic beings that were created that way, their awareness is sharp. Their perception is sharp. It's like we're still in kindergarten. That's how they're able to come into our phantasmagorical images and invade our minds like that. These are things to be very aware of. Why they keep us on this primitive flesh type of a society and level that stops us from being magical, stops us from being creators. Okay, stops us from being closer to a utopia. What's the deal when I feel like a micro dot than a huge as space? Might be the negative identity and your positive self battling each other. The negative self can be huge, and it makes the positive self feels minimal. But then when you switch it, the positive, because our divine overself, our over thought adjuster, whatever you want to call it, superconscious is generally positive. It's positive. It's with the creator. And it's larger than that. It can actually convert the negative identity. See, once it's channeling, you can get to it through the subconscious. I get attacked, Colleen, I get attacked a lot by someone I love. It's hard. They're probably a vampire, energy vampire. They don't even know it. And remember, those dark forces will use people that don't know how to protect themselves to hurt you. And sometimes they don't even know it. They're totally unknown to them. They just think they're arguing it's their personality when it's probably not. I'm sorry you're going through that. Just protect yourself constantly as much as you can. Have that solar plexus sun charge it up with protective Christ conscious energy, then turn it clockwise when you exhale and push that stuff off of you. It's a good technique. One I normally talk about during sessions. So, New England dirt roadie. And the darkness behind your eyes feels like it's rushing like Niagara Falls, like the tickle of a stream. Okay, yeah, no. Yeah. Protect yourself in the dream. That's always hard. You know what I mean? It's kind of reciting the protections constantly, and then even before you go to sleep, it's hard. You know, what sucks about this planet is we have to try to protect ourselves at least like 3 times a day. I mean, it's a truth. It's like just constant assaults around here, shadows, negative inorganic beings, these demonic people that just incarnate like you and I did, and there's like effed up or messed up or something. Excuse me. They can't. They can't love. There's something wrong with these people. They can't feel. They just hurt, and they're really on that negative, that negative inorganic being, that dark self mind side, the mindset of the predator. It's like people that are worried that they're going to starve to death. They eat too much because they're always worried about they're going to starve to death. That's the mind of the predator. The mind of the predator that's always hiding, is always worried it's going to be exposed and will lose its food source. That's what they're doing to us. Anyway, sorry. Shields up 24/7. Boom. I have to protect myself from my own thoughts most of the time. That's the negative self. It's fractured into negative identities. Then you've got the others come in and just help. They'll be saying things too, but they sound like you. It would sound like your mind. Okay, that's how they've tricked us. Why I said what they did is a brilliant strategy. I'm not admiring them. I'm just saying what it is as far as dark forces. They're not these dumb clucks that we think. Not always the guy in with the long mustache, Yosemite Sam mustache with the dark cane and the dark suit that's on the corner twirling the cane. Sometimes they present themselves as beautiful beings and wolves in sheep's clothing, as they say. But so definitely keep the protection. Yes, beware of those without traits. Yeah, and there's a lot of them. I know there's a big thing right now, Scarlet Fire, about NPCs and also line player characters, and also backdrop people. I think Dolores Cannon also calls them. And for me, I've mentioned that people have an energy field around them. It goes about 6 feet outside the body, and it looks normally spherical or even mushroom shaped towards the top on humans, all that I've seen. But then you look at some people in groups, and you see they don't have that configuration, their energy field. It's like this X or this triangle, these weird configurations that don't even look healthy, some of them, you know what I mean? And but then you look at them, they look like 2 people sitting there, but they're not what they appear to be. And those are some of those inorganic beings that have a master of the dream awareness and are able to mold their dream bodies. To look at true shape shifting occurs through the dream body. So that's one thing there. So sometimes they talk about NPCs and backdrop people. I wondered if it's not also these beings that do that. And normally when you see them, they seem to come in twos a lot of times. Cool. Yeah, non-player accessible. They're also NPC. They're also called backdrop people, though. They're actually called that first, and that was by was that Dolores Cannon or was that Barbara Lamb? I met Barbara Lamb in Vegas, and was that Vegas? Yeah, she stood there and talked to me for a while. Nice lady. Barbara Lamb is nice, and I really appreciate her work. I read her work when it first started coming out. She's very authentic. Anyway, sorry, I can't remember which one's called NPC. It was either Barbara Lamb or Dolores Cannon, or maybe both. NPC and backdrop people. Anyway, sorry. Good, right on. Well, thank you all very much. I've tried to answer as much as I can. I should probably do better on the chat. This has went way longer than I thought, but it's so cool interacting with you all. And I never thought in God's name I would ever go live. Appreciate my brother being here. Thanks, Mitch, and everybody. And I'll try to do this again real soon, all right? Because I'm always surprised by the response. This is probably the worst night at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night to do any live. I know so many other people do shows too. That's kind of the thing now. So I'm trying to not get in anybody's way or be separate of anything when there's a free slot. So I'll come back again and try again. If you're somebody that I didn't get to you, I apologize if I missed your deal. The chat's going fast. You can reach me on email at barrylittleton13@gmail.com. That's barrylittleton13@gmail.com. Send me an email if you want to set up a session or something, whether it's hypnosis or readings. I do readings. Like I said, the hypnosis is kind of better because you get your own information. It's not about seeing if the other person is actually accurate or if they really are gifted. It's more you accessing your own superconscious. Everything that your immortal soul has ever experienced is accessible through your superconscious, divine overself, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so hit me up if you want a session or something, or to chat, whatever the case is. Thank you all very much for being here. God bless all. Any suggestions or anything, just let me know in the comments, and things that you might want me to talk about another time, because obviously I can't stay on one topic too long and jump all around like I'm holding a hot potato. Anyway, God bless all, and thank you very much, and peace.